Cup Brigade competing on the 2-mile Michigan International Speedway in today's champion Spark Plug 400. But the electricity felt by the 100,000 sellout plus crowd is felt throughout the grandstands and in the pit area. Hello everyone, I'm Jack Arute along with Dr. Jerry Punch, and we're here to cover all the action of today's champion Spark Plug 400. And Jerry, the two main combatants, Tim Richmond and Bill Elliott, well, the tale of the tape is a little bit different for each, is it not?
Well, Bill Elliott's been a dominant force here at this track at Michigan, and, you know, his record speaks for itself. But he has never finished worse than third in the last 6 events he started here. He's had a frustrating year, but they came here back in June and picked up their only win. One man's meat, another man's poison. Tim Richmond, this track has not been very kind to him. A year ago in this event, he finished dead last. After a good qualifying run, he ran only 3 laps. In this race back in June, a respectable yet disappointing 15th place finish. They say Richmond's got momentum on his side, Big Mo, but Big Mo just may not make the cut today here at Michigan for Tim Richmond.
Well, Big Mo seemed to smile on one other gentleman during qualifying. Nobody expected him to snare the pole, but he did, and he's with our other colleague, the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine covering the pits today, Dr. Dick Berggren. Dick?
Well, Benny Parsons has changed from his ESPN announcer's uniform to a driver's uniform, and he's put his car on the pole here at Michigan. But you got some pretty tough competition beside you and behind you, Benny.
I tell you what, this guy beside me has been incredible for the past couple of months, Dick. I don't know what, we're just going to try our best and hope that we can keep up with the Tim Richmond car. He's been tough.
What are you going to do in your race today? What are you going to do to see that you're still number one when this thing is over?
Hey, I'm going to run as hard as I can all day and hope that the car is good, the crew makes some great stops, and you know, that some of the other cars will slow down a little bit. You know, Richmond and Bodine, they've been on a tear for the last couple of months, and it's not going to be any different. They're going to be tough again today. But, you know, also have Darrell Waltrip. He's going to be running. Well, hey, look, just go back the line. Bill Elliott, he's won how many in a row here? We can't count him out.
It's going to be a good one for sure. Jack?
Well, Jerry, it's no stranger to see Benny Parsons up on the front row. In fact, here in the spring race, he qualified on the outside of that front row.
That's a start he'd like to forget, Jackie. He only completed 3 laps before he unhinged an engine in the Copenhagen Oldsmobile and put it in the garage. The only race he won that day was the one to the airport.
Well, let's hope that he doesn't have to do the same this afternoon. The Champion Spark Plug 400 is being brought to you today by today's Champion Spark Plug 400. We're ready to give you all the coverage. We'll be back to cover it right after this message. The field is underway in their preliminary pace blast for today's Champion Spark Plug 400. We're here to cover all of the action. Let's take a look right now at today's starting lineup for this event on the Winston Cup Tour. On the pole, our ESPN colleague in the Copenhagen Oldsmobile, Benny Parsons of Ellerbe, North Carolina. Flanking him on the outside, Tim Richmond, Cornelius, North Carolina, in the Folgers Coffee Exxon Chevrolet. Second row, we'll find Bill Elliott, Dawsonville, Georgia, in the Coors Melling Ford. And flanking Elliott, his nemesis for the Winston Cup title last year, Darrell Waltrip, Franklin, Tennessee, in Junior Johnson's Budweiser Chevrolet. Third row finds Harry Gant, Taylorsville, North Carolina, starting on the inside in his Circle K Skoal Bandit Chevrolet. And on the outside is Jeff Bodine of Julian, North Carolina, in the Levi Garrett Exxon Chevrolet from Rick Hendrick's stable. Fourth row finds Rusty Wallace, Trinity, North Carolina, the Alucard Pontiac, and on the outside of row 4, Bobby Allison, Hueytown, Alabama, the Miller American Buick. Let's take a look at row 5. That's Phil Parsons and Buddy Baker filling the 5th row. 6th row belongs to Bobby Hillen Jr. and Dale Earnhardt. 7th row. Going to the start is Joe Ruttman and Alan Kulwicki, a rookie on the tour. 8th row is David Pearson and Neil Bonnet, Pearson's 2nd start of the year. 9th row we'll find Ken Schrader, defending Rookie of the Year, and Ricky Rudd in a Ford. In the 10th row is Morgan Shepherd in his last start for Jack Beebe, and Butch Miller in ASA regular. 11th row, Eddie Bierschwale and Kyle Petty. 12th row, we'll find Wilson and Labonte. In the 13th row, Ellis and Greg Sachs, 2 guys that don't run that often this year. Chet Phillip and Cale Yarbrough will start in the 14th row. 15th row we'll find Mike Waltrip, a rookie contender, and the King, Richard Petty, in the STP Pontiac 43. Jim Sauter at the controls of the 75 Pontiac, and Buddy Arrington starting his car in row 16. 17th row is Ken Reagan and Dave Marcus, and the 18th row, David Simcoe and DK Ulrich. 19th row is Bobby Gerhart and Rodney Combs. Starting in the 20th row, Jimmy Means and J.D. McDuffie, and going shotgun on the field is Jim Hull. And Hull had some problems, Jerry, in qualifying.
Well, he had a problem over in turn 1, Jackie. He destroyed the first car they were going to try to get qualified, a Chevrolet. They had to bring a backup car, the Oldsmobile, out, and they made the field in that car.
Let's take a look at how this track lays out, this 2-mile Champion Spark Plug race. There's actually a 2-mile D-shaped oval. It's built back in 1968, but when Roger Penske took it over, he's added so much to it. 18 degrees of banking. For those of you that watch racing, consider that that is the banking in the tri-oval at Daytona, so it's not that strong. 83 feet is the width of the turns, and the straightaways is 57 feet. But what's interesting there, Jerry, is the fact that it's banked here in the straightaway. The field is in line. There you see Parsons and Richmond, Elliott and Waltrip, then Gant and Bodine. And boy, if that isn't a group to contend with as we get ready for the start. Let's see if the pace car will peel off. It does. We are just 700 feet away from the dispensation of the green flag by NASCAR starter Harold Kinder. It looks to be a real tight, slow start. Field comes up through the gearbox. Kinder gives the green flag. They scoot beneath the start-finish line and dive into turn 1. No contest thus far. It looks like Parsons is attempting to hold on the inside. Field gets through the first turn fine. Rumbling out of turn 2. The leader will be Benny Parsons, but look on the inside comes Bill Elliott contesting. Waltrip has moved to second. In third, and about to lose it is Jeff Bodine. They are side by side for that 4th position. That, of course, being Elliott and the Alucard car of Rusty Wallace. Jumping to a start, however. Tim Richmond. It's appropriated to lead. Benny Parsons has dropped back, Jerry, dropped back considerably.
Well, Benny wants to get back out of that scramble at the start. He knows that they use short track tactics here at Michigan. They do a little bit of frem and embamming, a little fender banging, and Parsons trying to run 400 miles, 200 laps here. But Tim Richmond, Jackie, picked up where he left off last week at Watkins Glen. That's at the front of the field.
Well, he's flanked by his teammate running in second. These Hendrick cars are just so potent this year. That's Jeff Bodine has moved to second. Darrell Waltrip, who will be the 3rd Hendrick car in 1987, has moved into that 3rd position. And then there is the, well, actually, it's Elliott that's now appropriated 3rd from Rusty Wallace. Elliott runs 3rd, Wallace 4th, Parsons has dropped back to 5th. In 6th is Darrell Waltrip as Richmond completes another lap here.
They'll straighten out single file for the first few laps and try to get accustomed to the drafting in the asphalt here. The track repaved here back in June, and they had a few problems early in the race, a little bit of banging and tapping around. They want to get straightened out and then begin the passing.
Now, in this race in the spring, there were severe tire problems, and the Goodyear tire engineers decided, there's Tim Richmond, who is leading this event, good-looking young man. They decided that they were going to take some precautionary measures today. We may, and I repeat may, see a pit stop early on in this race just to check tires. We'll tell you more about that later. In the meantime, here comes the Winston Cup Brigade through the scoop shot. It's Richmond, Bodine, Elliott. They've begun to pull away from Wallace, who is in the 4th position. It's a 3-car triumvirate as they come across the stripe and down into turn 1 once again. Not too bad of separation, but the contest is for that 4th position. Going to the inside of Rusty Wallace is Benny Parsons. He's trying it out right now, the battle for 4th and 5th. There is Parsons on the inside, building up the speed, utilizing the draft. Will he get him going into turn 3? Boy, they are doorpost to doorpost. Wallace looks like he may have just a little bit more horsepower. Here is the change for the lead, too. Jeff Bodine has taken over the front position, and dropping back to second is Tim Richmond, and in 3rd, and he just seems to be just positioning himself there, is Bill Elliott.
Well, Bill Elliott's going to play it a little bit coy here. You know, he doesn't lead very often in the early part of this race. All the races he's won here in the past few years, he has not been a factor in the first 100 laps. In fact, most of the time, he didn't take the lead until lap 150. I'm sure he's going to sit there and watch these Hendrick cars and let them battle it out. Watch Bodine and Richmond. He knows that there's a friendly rivalry there. Bodine would like to get back in the winner's circle. Tim Richmond's getting hot from others.
Well, also a lot of talk about Tim Richmond, the fact that he likes to break to the front early, go out and lead as many laps as he can. We spoke to him yesterday, and he said, no, that's not really my way. But you can be sure that Jeff Bodine and Tim Richmond both would like to shake off Bill Elliott because they remember that he's looking for his 4th in a row here in Michigan.
Well, this is an awfully good track for Elliott, as we spoke earlier. And Bodine would like to change his tactics a little bit, too. You know, he led the most laps at Watkins Glen last week. He has been leading the most laps, yet he hasn't found victory lane here since his last win at Dover, Delaware earlier in the year. He would like to lead, but he'd also like to win, so we'll see what happens.
Moving up to 6th position, breaking from 12th spot is Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt was challenging for that 5th spot held by Benny Parsons. A good, quick, fast run from midfield by Dale Earnhardt. But it looks like maybe now he's settling down just a tad.
This is no surprise to see Earnhardt make a charge earlier. He is a charger. He is certainly one tough customer. This is the car that Earnhardt drove to his last win on the series back in May in Charlotte. He won the World 600. The same race car they had put back, and we're going to keep that car for this important run.
Now Parsons goes to the inside once again of the Alucard Pontiac of Rusty Wallace. Will Parsons get him? He goes down low into turn 1. They get real close, but it looks like consistently Wallace has a little more speed going into the corners. Parsons battles back downstairs, has got the nose of his Oldsmobile out in front for that battle for 3rd position, but Wallace continues back, and now it looks like, yes, Earnhardt's going to try and make it maybe 3 wide going into turn number 3. It looks like Bill Elliott, meanwhile, is beginning to make some moves or some overtures towards that 2nd and 1st positions held by the Hendrick team cars. Elliott still stationed in that 3rd spot, just stays glued to the rear deck lid of Tim Richmond, filling his mirror. Now Richmond dips to the inside, looking for a position, that of the lead in the Champion Spark Plug 400. He's got Jeff Bodine, but not by much. Bodine battles back.
And Richmond's car bobbling a little bit in turn 1 there. It appeared the car got a little bit loose, and that's the opportunity that Bill Elliott wanted. As Elliott moves around Tim Richmond, it looks like he'll maybe take a shot at Jeff Bodine.
Elliott is not one to let an opportunity go by the boards. He sees it and strikes as quick as a cobra. It's given him 2nd position. Bodine has now got command in the lead, and there's maybe 3 car lengths separating Bodine and Elliott, and then another 2 car lengths separating Elliott in 2nd to Tim Richmond in 3rd. There you see the separation as they come to the stripe once again to complete the 9th circuit here at Michigan International Speedway. So pretty much what we thought would happen here, the Champion Spark Plug 400 being run, and it's Jeff Bodine in the lead. We'll be back with more activity right after this message. Back at Michigan International Speedway, and Jeff Bodine continues to lead the Champion Spark Plug 400. No changes in the front 3 positions while we were away. Bill Elliott maintaining 3rd position, but he's lost a little ground to Jeff Bodine in that run for the lead. Tim Richmond still holding down 3rd spot, but there was, while we were away, an unscheduled pit stop by Kyle Petty and the Wood Brothers Southland 711 team. They came in with Jerry what looked to be a tire problem.
Looked to be a right front tire. Jackie may have been going down on the car. They came in and changed right side tires, and also making an unscheduled stop, and still on pit road is Jimmy Beams. That car, one of the independent drivers, has been struggling. He is in with a change of left side tires.
Well, the average speed for the initial 10 laps, we are now working lap 12, was 166.281 miles per hour. So nobody's holding out of the throttle in this one. Here's the battle for 6th position. Just putting a move on Rusty Wallace for the spot was Bobby Allison. Allison beginning to make his strength and muscle known here in the early going.
This is the kind of track that Bobby Allison likes. A wide open, wide racetrack where he can use the horsepower. He has the opportunity to drive the car anywhere he wants to and pick and choose where he passes. He likes this kind of track. He won at Talladega. He may have a shot here today.
Well, that's the Vola Brothers Racing Team, the 2-car effort of the veteran Bobby Allison and Bobby Hillen. They both have scored victories on the circuit. There you get a good look of the kind of traffic mired back in that battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th position. Allison being trailed by Wallace. Harry Gant has moved into 9th spot, and bringing out the top 10 at the tail end of this field is, well, actually in 9th spot would be Darrell Waltrip, and moving into 10th spot is Buddy Baker in his Oldsmobile. Another position being exchanged, Harry Gant moving up and taking over the 7th spot from Rusty Wallace. So they are swapping positions a little bit in the back of the field.
Rusty Wallace has been backsliding just a little bit the last few laps. His car had moved up into 5th spot and now is going back in 10th, so he continues to go backwards. We'll watch and see if they make an unscheduled stop pretty soon.
Another car that looked like it might be going just a tad backwards. He was in the frame there for a second, was Kyle Petty. He's been passed by this group of cars, and it looks like Dick Bergeron may have a report on some activity down in the pits. Dick?
Well, Jack, the activity down in the pit centers around Benny Parsons, who had started on the pole. Right now, however, he's dropping back. His crew says the problem is the front end has a push. There will be a pit stop coming up fairly soon if they don't get a yellow flag before lap 23. NASCAR says they're going to bring the teams in at any rate, just to take a look at the cars and tires and make sure everything's okay. At that point, Parsons' team surely will be able to adjust the car, and hopefully he'll be able to run a bit better.
Well, that would be a break for Benny Parsons, Jerry Punch, as there you can see smiling Benny on the screen. to be able to come in the luxury of a caution to resolve a pushing problem, he could put him right back into the hunt.
Well, they can guess a little bit. They can afford to make a guess on the chassis setup if they know they're going to get a caution early on. And that'll be a break for Benny Parsons and also a break for Rusty Wallace. He's been backsliding as well.
Well, Benny continues to show in that 5th position, holding off the advances of Harry Gant, one of his Skoll teammates, and Bobby Allison. In the meantime, up front, the lead by Jeff Bodine has been extended to 1.18 seconds. So no real contest for the lead by Bodine. He's very stationary there, just maybe waiting it out till that lap 23 to 25 pit stop to check things over. There's Bobby Allison, Rusty Wallace, and Darrell Waltrip. We'll take a look now back up towards the leaders. And there you can see that 1.18 seconds of separation. On a 2-mile racetrack, that begins to pull away very visually. You can see it's 15, maybe 20 car lengths.
Well, you have to wonder a little bit if Jeff Bodine is maybe testing the car a little bit. He knows they're going to come in at lap 20 or so if they don't get a caution and get that tire changed. So you have to wonder if he's possibly testing the car a little bit. He knows they're going to come in and get some fresh rubber in a few laps.
Now, look at the king, Richard Petty, number 43. Get this, Jerry. He's moved from 30th position, and now he is running in 13th spot, closing in on the 12th place runner, Joe Ruttman, in that Quaker State car. That's a great run for Richard Petty, Dale Lindman, and the rest of the crew from Randleman.
You know, Richard and that team have really caught fire. Kenny Wilson, Dale Lindman, and the crew have been working so hard, and Petty now taking 12th spot, makes a move around the Ruttman car, trying to move around Ruttman. But Petty and that operation have really come together. They ran so well last week at Watkins Glen, we saw on ESPN, and they are really trying to get a victory here this year.
Just this spring, at this same racetrack, Richard Petty celebrated his 1,000th start in Winston Cup competition. It didn't go that well for him that afternoon, but it looks like things are going fine for him thus far in today's Champion Spark Plug 400. Mired back there in 13th position, but he's already picked up, 17 spots from where he started. There's Morgan Shepherd directly behind him. Morgan being shown in 14th position. Hard to believe that his best finish is a 3rd at Rockingham, North Carolina. Usually this guy wins maybe 3 or 4 races a year, but that hasn't been the case the last couple of years, has it?
No, it surely hasn't, Jackie. His last win, of course, came in July in Daytona, 1984. They would like to be able to clip that losing streak and pick up a win here. He's had a rough year. Dislocated shoulder at Daytona. He had a concussion at Charlotte in a practice accident. He told us that I'm battered, I'm beaten. I want to get to victory lane and make it all worthwhile.
When you listen to him talk about the problems and the maladies that he suffered, it almost sounds like a first aid book. But talk about Joe Ruttman. He's also had more than his share of problems just trying to retain that ride in the Kenny Bernstein Buick. You know, there's a lot of talk about where he may be going next year.
Well, they say Ruttman may be out of a ride. There are 2 or 3 people that are talking about getting in that car. But, you know, you can't take anything away from Ruttman. The last 6 races, he's had 4 top 10 finishes.
Now, Morgan Shepherd sets his sights on that position, number 13, held by Richard Petty. Shepherd goes downstairs. He's got it as they come to the stripe to complete the 20th circuit here in the Champion Spark Plug 400. Morgan Shepherd and Jack Beebe. Now, they're a winner this year, winning that race in Atlanta, the Motorcraft 500 earlier in the spring. But a lot of talk about the fact that this may be the final race for Morgan Shepherd, Jack and Chris Beebe, Jake Elder, and that 4017.
Well, you'd hate to see Jack Beebe and Chris get out of racing, but Jack has sold his operation, the bus operation he had up north, and is wanting to just retire a little bit and relax and travel around. Morgan Shepherd is one of the guys they say may be in line for that Kenny Bernstein ride, the Joe Ruttman car. And here's an opportunity to see if Ruttman can hold off Morgan Shepherd, the guy who may replace him in that car.
Those race results by Morgan Shepherd and Jack Beebe's team really don't say the whole story. When you have to consider that they run unsponsored. In motorcycle racing, they call it a privateer entry. Every single dollar that goes into that car comes right out of Jack Beebe's hip pocket. And I think they have one victory this year. That's incredible because there's a lot of multi-million-dollar teams that can't even lay claim to that. Field trying still to sort itself out. No need to worry. Bodine is still up front. We're coming close, getting down, as they would say, the short time before all these cars will position themselves on pit road for that mandatory tire inspection. Now, we're still looking at Ruttman and Morgan Shepherd. This is the battle for 12th and 13th position. A lot of chess playing going on right now with these 2 Buick drivers, just where you put your car. And when you take a look at Joe Ruttman, you've got to realize, too, that as we've said, he may be a lame duck driver. And we've had a chance earlier in the week, actually, Jerry, you did, to talk to Joe Ruttman a little bit about this Kenny Bernstein team.
There have been a lot of distractions this year for the Quaker State team. Among
among those, the fact that you guys have had some engine problems. You switched around a couple different engine builders, and you've had some good finishes, yet you've not quite been able to get the big one.
Well, you know, the amazing thing is that, you know, a record on short track, I think if everyone checks, is we probably got the best short track record of anyone in the garage area, you know, so finish-wise. So short track-wise, we don't seem to have a problem. In intermediate, we're encountering a little bit of a problem. In super speedway, we've encountered some problems, but it's like anything else. I guess you have your ups and downs, and if pieces break on you, there's not much the driver can do about it, other words, do the best he possibly can. And winning is what we want to do and what I have to do, and maybe Michigan might be the place it could happen.
You know, in all fairness to Joe Ruttman, you know, he's had 2 second-place finishes at Richmond and Martinsville, and we said in the last 6 starts, he's had 4 top 10 finishes. They have been juggling the engine department in that car, and it's not really fair to blame Joe Ruttman. And a lot of people are saying it's not Ruttman's fault, but he may lose the ride. He may be the one that gets X out of the picture.
Well, one of the guys that seems, as you said, to be in contention for the ride took over that 12th position from Ruttman. Morgan Shepherd has moved solidly into the 12th spot. There's Jeff Bodine, who's extending his lead over second place. Give you a good look at the separation between second. That's Bill Elliott. He'll be coming into the screen. Look how far it's been stretched. Elliott has now got a 1.57 second differential between himself and the leader, Jeff Bodine.
And we have caution on the Speedway, Jackie. Harold Kinder has dropped the caution flag as we expected. They will be making the mandatory pit stop, and they will take a look and see what the tire wear is. It will be an advantage for Benny Parsons and some of the guys who have had some trouble with the handling. We noticed the Harry Yent car was showing a little smoke off that right rear tire, so they'll all be coming in for this routine caution flag pit stop.
Well, this will be very valuable to not only the leaders, but the back markers as well. And we'll get a chance with Dick Berggren covering the action down the pits to see just what these crews do on a tire pit stop. Because when you're going to be checking for the condition of the tires, you'll be looking for things a little differently than you would under a normal caution flag or maybe under a green flag stop. This is really a research pit stop. Check how things are going.
They can gauge the rubber, they gauge the tire wear. They will take tire temperatures on the tires they take off. They may make a slight chassis adjustment. The crews are readying the field now, bunching up behind Jeff Bodine at a turn 4. They will make that scramble. Looks like feeding time at the zoo as they head down pit road.
A lot of positioning going on right now. Bodine will be the first to come to a stop, and our colleague Dick Berggren is there.
And Jeff Bodine is taking on the expected 4 tires. Everybody's going to do 4. This is not the first time NASCAR has brought the teams in to check things over on the cars. And the reason we're doing it here in Michigan is this is basically a new surface. The last time they raced here, it was a brand new surface. It had only been on the ground for some 2 weeks. Well, it's had a chance to cure all summer, but they haven't had a chance to do any tire testing except practice here. So they want to take a look, make sure everything is 100% okay, and that is what this stop is all about. For Bodine, however, there is one other item in this stop that is very important. Bodine's radio is out. His crew cannot hear him. They are signaling to him he is signaling to them with hand signals, and that is it. They can talk to him. He can't talk to them.
Well, once feeding time was completed down there on pit road, the first guy in and out, quick service by Richard Childress' Wrangler team, got Dale Earnhardt out first, and he leads this afternoon's Champion Spark Plug 400 by the action by his crew and the pit crew. We'll be back with more from Michigan International Speedway right after this.
Greg Sachs is sitting in the car shaking his head. He can't believe it. He came in with no lug nuts at all on the left front wheel. They have replaced that wheel, and then they had trouble with the left rear wheel. A long, long extra pit stop for Greg Sachs.
You know, Jerry, if it weren't for bad luck, Greg Sachs and the Dyguard Racing team would have no luck at all. Boy, we love you people, too. A great crowd here this afternoon. It's just phenomenal. The traffic was backed up for about 2 hours getting in here, and that's unusual.
Well, this 100,000 plus have really gotten their money's worth so far. I mean, I don't know why they bought seats. No one's sitting down. They're all standing and watching what's happening.
You know, we alluded to the fact that it was quick pit work by Dale Earnhardt that got him out in the lead, but you have a very valid observation. It wasn't only the pit work, but pit selection as well.
It was where they pitted. Actually, watching pit road, it was Harry Gant's Travis Carter-led crew that was the first car to come off the jacks. But Gant, pitting up in the upper end of pit road, was not able to beat Earnhardt, who was pitting at the lower end down toward turn 1. It's that pit selection that won Earnhardt a race in Wilkesboro earlier in the year.
Pit selection is so critical here in Winston Cup racing, and the way they do it is they let the Winston Cup champion actually make the first selection, and then they go by points based after that. And really, a crew chief and a driver spend considerable time deciding where they should pit, on the far side, with an open pit, with a closed pit. And so far, Richard Childress and that crew seem to have made the right selection.
Well, they certainly have, and apparently a couple of people are having some problems. We have one car that...
Well, the pace car is peeling off Buddy Baker. It looks as if he's retired from the event. He's gone behind the wall. Our Dick Berger will give us the report on that action. Meanwhile, coming back up through the gearbox, getting ready to go full song, is this Winston Cup field. Kyle Petty, 1 lap down, leads it across the stripe and has regained his lap, but he's on the tail end of the lap. The lead is held by the second car in your picture, that, of course, being Dale Earnhardt. No stranger to the front of a field. Earnhardt looked to the inside there. Could it be that he wants to keep Petty a lap down? Indeed, it does seem to be the case. Boy, awfully loose, awfully unstable is that 33 car of Harry Gant that's running in second position.
The car of Gant's was awfully loose before they made the pit stop. They came in and made a 4-tire change, and you would think that they would be able to tighten their car up. Now, Gant makes the move by Kyle Petty and brings Rusty Wallace with him, but it looks like Earnhardt is going to set sail.
Earnhardt is at full song. Just a spectacular sight to see these cars come up at about 7,800 RPM, hitting speeds of 170 miles per hour plus, and just jockeying for position. You can see all the movement back there for 7th, 8th, and 9th place. Going to the inside for that 4th position is Bill Elliott. Elliott has appropriated that spot from Rusty Wallace. Wallace battles back on the outside, however.
And Rusty Wallace is no stranger here. He won an ASA race here back in '83 in his Chevrolet Camaro, but right now he's got a veteran on the inside of him. That's Bill Elliott.
Battle of Detroit automakers as well. It was Ford on the inside taking that position. In the meantime, it looked like a little feinted challenge for second position as well. It looked like actually Harry Gant was trying to get around Tim Richmond, who's moved into that second spot. The boy Elliott seems to have turned the wick up. He's going to try for third spot.
Well, Bill Elliott pushes the button, and that Ernie Elliott prepared engine really comes to life, and Gant seems to be able to hold him off, but Elliott has the inside line. Gant's car not handling very well in the corners.
We talked about Buddy Baker going behind the wall. Dick Berggren has more on that.
Buddy Baker, what's happened to you?
Well, the ratchet, I think, broke in the rear, or whatever it was. It broke on about the second lap, and I started going back and back and back, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. We just got one wheel pulling, and it's pushing me right into the wall. So I think she broke a little more than we can fix.
When these things break a ratchet or break one axle, they're almost impossible to drive. It's almost a miracle he even brought it in here at all.
You've got to have a set of arms like Buddy Baker's to wrestle a grizzly like that. Look at the move to the inside by Richmond. He almost had the spot. It almost looked like it was a defensive posture that Richmond took to avoid ramming the back bumper of Dale Earnhardt.
It really looked like it, and Tim Richmond now has his hands full by virtue of that spot. He probably heated up his tires a little bit, and now Elliott has a shot on the outside.
Elliott capitalizes once again on a miscue, and he's battling on the outside with Tim Richmond for second position. Richmond says, nothing doing, Big Bill. But not enough. Richmond loses the spot to Bill Elliott.
Look at the power you see in that Ford for Bill Elliott as they come through the corners. And Rusty Wallace now showing a little bit of muscle on the inside in his Pontiac.
Wallace continues to fade to the inside. It looks like his car is really working downstairs. He grabs the spot away, and he takes over that 4th position from Harry Gant. Gant once again begins to fade.
Boy, Barry Dodson, Jimmy Makar, and the crew really have Rusty Wallace's car dialed in. They were a dominant force early last week on the road course at Watkins Glen, and Wallace's car working on the bottom of the racetrack. Earnhardt.
Oh, trouble! Real close. They did get connected. Coming out of the corner, it looked like Dale Earnhardt was going to kiss the pavement. He didn't. Bill Elliott, quick reflexes, got out of the throttle, but look at what it cost him. Maybe 4 or 5 car lengths.
That could have been a catastrophe. That shows the driving capabilities of Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott. Both those guys could have been gone, could have been somersaulting, but they held on. And now Richmond battling with Rusty Wallace.
And going on the outside of Rusty Wallace's Harry Gant, it looks like a racing sandwich with Richmond on the inside taking third spot. Here's the contest and the challenge. The lead is flip-flop. It's Elliott in front with Earnhardt running second. Earnhardt never likes to run in second position.
I don't think he'll be there very long. He's going to try to, and Elliott now moving down on the inside, trying to break the draft. He snakes his way down to that straightaway, Jackie. That's a ploy they use to try to keep the wind from bringing another car along with them.
Want to give as much disturbed air to the back of a car as possible. It's something we see at Daytona and Talladega, a commonplace, but not at a place like Michigan. There's an indication of just how critical the draft can be. There's the battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th position. It's Gant in 4th, Allison in 5th. Wallace takes over for 6th spot, and 7th position belongs to Benny Parsons, and Bodine is fading back to 8th spot. Boy, there's racing all over this place in the front 10 positions.
Well, that gaggle of cars is something. It's Jeff Bodine now trying to make a move on the inside. Bodine wants to get back up front. Look in the back of that pack. One car making a move, starting 28th in the back of that field was Cale Yarborough. We caught a glimpse of Yarborough in car just a minute ago. He is moving toward the front.
Yarborough is like a mugger that lurks in the alleys, in the shadows. He just waits and bides his time. He's now running in 10th position. He started 28th, moved up to 20th. Quick work in the finish by the Waddell Wilson crew. Got him out. He's now running in 10th spot. Cale Yarborough, there you see him at the tail end of the picture, has gone by Darrell Waltrip, actually by Neil Bonnet, to take over 9th position. In 8th spot is Jeff Bodine. 7th spot is Benny Parsons, but now Bodine has 7th spot. He's downstairs. He's going to go for 6th spot, held by Rusty Wallace.
And Bodine's car dialed in awfully well, too. Gary Nelson has that car handling on the bottom of the racetrack. That's an advantage for him, but Wallace seems to have the horsepower. And Benny Parsons will not give up that outside groove.
Boy, the plate of racing for motorsports fans today is just incredible. We saw the Austrian Grand Prix. We're watching the Champion Spark Plug 400. And, of course, at Pocono International Raceway for the Kart Brigade, it's the Domino's Pizza 500, which we'll see later today on ESPN. We're getting ready for a start there in Pocono, and we're there to cover it. Let's go right now to my colleague, Bob Jenkins, who's high atop Pocono International Raceway for the Domino's 500.
We have just begun the Domino's Pizza 500 from Pocono International Raceway, and as the cars move out of the first corner, it appears as if Mario Andretti has grabbed the lead. Michael Andretti, the pole sitter, is dropping back here at the start of the race. He started this race with a new track record on Friday, qualifying at 205.724 miles an hour, but he is moving up, and now Johnny Rutherford has a lead. We have a crash in corner number 2, as at least 2 cars are involved. We'll wait for a confirmation on who exactly is involved, but a lot of damage to machinery in turn number 2. This is the one that has been so controversial. There is one of the cars involved. That's Johnny Parsons in car number 59, the Schaefer Machinist Union car. And you can see extensive damage to the rear end of that machine, but we can see Johnny moving around in the cockpit. Hopefully, he is all right. The other car involved in the accident is on the inside of the racetrack in the infield, and we have yet to find out who else was involved in this crash besides Johnny Parsons.
The second car is, in fact, Dennis Firestone in the Lola, the Raynor Lola. Now, we saw Dennis have an enormous accident prior to the race at the Indianapolis 500. The safety crews are still there. Dennis hasn't got out of the car yet, but he has the best of medical help there attending to him at the moment. But Dennis Firestone in the Raynor Garage Doors Lola is the other car that was involved in that incident with Johnny Parsons Jr.
And there is, it appears, some concern at this point on Dennis Firestone. Steve Edwards, the kart safety director, is there, and several other medical personnel are on hand. Let's take another look at it. It occurred just as the cars moved through the second corner. And a car loses it and does a 360. And Dennis Firestone comes along with no place to go and nails Johnny Parsons. Parsons on the left of your screen and Dennis Firestone on the right.
I think we have a third car in this incident somewhere. It looks as if we might have Scott Brayton also involved in this accident. Now, Johnny Parsons Jr. was involved. I don't think he started this incident. Dennis Firestone was unfortunate to be involved because he ran into the car who spun. Now, we think it was Scott Brayton.
You're
yes,
right,
indeed, there it was. There was Scott Brayton. We don't know what happened to his car. He lost it in the middle of turn 2. Now, we don't know whether that was over the bump, because he did have problems over the bumps earlier on. But Scott Brayton definitely was the cause of the incident that we're seeing now, and which has caused this yellow caution period.
And you can see Johnny Parsons and Scott Brayton out of their machines, but there is some concern at this moment about Dennis Firestone. And, of course, we will update you throughout the afternoon. Now, we will have this race at 5:30 Eastern Time here on ESPN. In the meanwhile, we, of course, have Winston Cup racing for you from Michigan International Speedway, and some exciting racing throughout this weekend here on ESPN. Earlier today, the Formula One race was won by Alain Prost. So now we take you back for more of the Champion Spark Plug 400 from Michigan International Speedway.
Well, nobody likes to see twisted fiberglass like we've just seen at Pocono. We hope everybody's okay. But back here at the Champion Spark Plug 400, Bill Elliott has kept the competition temperature well above the boiling point. Elliott in front. Dale Earnhardt running second. The separation is 1.7 seconds. There's your leader, Elliott. He's just tooling on a Sunday afternoon drive down the backstretch. But the battle is for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Allison running in 5th. Bodine in 6th, and in 7th spot is Rusty Wallace, and they have traded those positions like one would think they were baseball cards on a corner in front of a drugstore.
Allison, the 48-year-old veteran from Hueytown, Alabama, trying to show two young drivers, Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace, what it's all about. But right now, it looks like Jeff Bodine is going to try to put a move on Bobby Allison.
One thing about Jeff Bodine is he never settles for less than perfect. He goes to the inside. A lot of people say he's like a young Bobby Allison. He's got the spot a little tail wag there, but Allison gave him actually the distance and the separation that he needed to stay straight, and they are now side by side, and the veteran goes to the position again. Allison says, I want distance mine.
And Rusty Wallace quite smartly has backed off a couple of car lengths and given those two guys a chance to go at it, do their battle, and he will wait for someone to make a mistake, thinking sort of like Bill Elliott does. Let someone slip and slide, make a mistake, and I'll choose my way. Now Wallace slips a little bit, wags his tail.
They all traded a little paint there. Bodine said low side didn't work last time. Let's try the high side around Bobby. Lap traffic comes into play. Bobby gives way, as does Bodine. They go around Jim Hall. Bodine has 5th spot, moving Bobby Allison back to 6th. Good old Rusty Wallace just watching the greatest racing right now in that 7th position. Last lap, 167.83 miles per hour. There's Bodine, there's Allison. Boy, how'd you like to travel the circuit like Bobby Allison does? Not only the 30 races on the Winston Cup Tour, but some 100-plus races with his short track efforts, and he uses his Aerostar car to get around. Jeff Bodine in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet from the Rick Hendrick stable. You haven't really heard much from Jeffrey since his spectacular victory there in the Daytona 500, but he has a lot to say about this Michigan International Speedway. He's run here a lot, and he's very opinionated.
Being the kind of competitor you are, this is the kind of track you've got to like, where you can run maybe 3 and 4 abreast.
Well, we had a lot of fun here last time here. The new asphalt really made it a nice racetrack to run on. Very, very smooth, very fast. You can run high, low, in the middle. A lot of racing room out there, and I expect the same thing this Sunday. I like the track. Yeah, I like the 3 wide. I like the drafting. It's almost a super speedway in respect to drafting. If you get out of line here in Michigan, you go to the back of the line real quick. So you really have to be sharp on drafting. But your car has to run good. It has to handle good. A lot of corners here in Michigan, so the handling's very important. Along with horsepower, you kind of come uphill out of these corners, and it's a long ways down to the other end of the straightaway. So here at Michigan, I think it's a racetrack where you need the whole combination working good to be able to run up front and win. That's handling, horsepower, driving, the crew. Everything has to go right here at Michigan to win.
Well, Bodine has experienced the taste of leading this event so far and now running back in 5th position, and he's so right. Drafting, horsepower, and handling, what a combination to be able to be competitive here. And so far, he seems to have just a little bit of everything, but not enough to be one of the front contenders. You know, we've talked a lot about tires thus far in the race. We had that mandatory stop. Dick Bergeron has more on tires. Let's go to him on pit road.
Well, Jack, the stop was really to check and make sure everything was okay, because Goodyear had not really had a chance to test on the new surface here. And everything has, in fact, proven okay for just about everybody. In fact, the only blistered tire I saw came off Harry Gant's car, and he's having handling problems, and that'll blister a tire no matter what. The tires have worked out well enough. The majority of teams have saved their tires from the first run of the racetrack, and they're going to be able to use them again later. I've talked to a couple of crew chiefs, however, who say they might shuffle right front and right rear tires in order to try to make things really work well. Tires should be no problem here. We're going to have a good race this afternoon.
Boy, Dick Bergeron may have stumbled across something we'll keep you apprised of. With those 20 laps on those tires, they could be good critical tires. With Bill Elliott leading this event, they could be what you use later in the race to go for the victory. Bill Elliott continues to lead. He's over Dale Earnhardt, Tim Richmond, and Harry Gant. Come on back in a minute.
If you like racing, if
you are watching the battle for third third position. Jeff Bodine has just taken it away from his teammate, Tim Richmond. This battle between Dale Earnhardt in second, Bodine in third, and Richmond in fourth position has been a heated one, Jerry.
And what's impressive is Jeff Bodine has run these guys down. He has dispensed with the battle we were watching a little bit ago with Rusty Wallace and Bobby Allison. He has run them down some 15 car lengths going by Richmond, and now he's going to make a move on Earnhardt. And you know, Jackie, last time he was here, they had a Robert Yates engine in the car. They have rearranged things somewhat. He is back with B&R and Randy Norton. The power plant he has under the hood is the same kind that Richmond has, and I think he really likes what he's seeing right now.
Well, now, while we've watched this duke out in the middleweight championship division between Earnhardt, Bodine, and Richmond, Bill Elliott continues to lead by 4.02 seconds, so he's pulling away. But it looks like Earnhardt seems to be contented, or actually really battling to just maintain that second spot, maybe until the next pit stop where Richard Childress can make another adjustment.
I think that'll be the case. I think they're going to watch. They don't want to gamble anything. He's currently leading the points. He has lost some ground in the second place point runner. That's Waltrip, now only about 150 points back. And Earnhardt does not want to lose any more ground to Waltrip, knowing that 4 of the next 6 races coming up are short track races, and that's where Darrell Waltrip really excels.
There's Tommy Ellis, an infrequent competitor on the Winston Cup Series. Looks like he's got a problem. He's slowed down, probably killed the ignition switch. He's going to be going into the pits. But here is the battle again for second position. Earnhardt loves to hug, rim ride down on the low side. He's not at all intimidated when the rear end of a car breaks loose. He'll keep the nose pointed down low.
Well, I think if you ask the drivers in the garage area, is there one driver, anybody who can get a car 45 degrees out of shape and save it, they'll probably say Dale Earnhardt.
Well, there's Tommy Ellis. He's made his way around the race course. He's on pit road. We'll have to wait and see if he takes that real hard left-hand turn to Gasoline Alley or the garage area. He does. It's Toot Fini for the Friedlander crew.
Well, he's a 1981 Busch Grand National Series champion. He was a dominant force in that series prior to coming to Winston Cup, and he had a good run at Talladega a couple of weeks ago. And you know what foiled his run? They had a jack go awry in the pits. They tried 2 different jacks, couldn't jack the car up. He lost a couple laps, and he had to park it.
Now, if you want to talk about a torrid pace being set here this afternoon, the race record for this event was 153.863 miles per hour, set by Darrell Waltrip in 1984. Through the first 50 laps of this race, Bill Elliott and company have set a new record, 154.043 miles per hour for 50 laps. And Elliott is filling the front mirror right now of the second place car. There's Elliott in the lead of actually Dale Earnhardt. And Earnhardt, that's got to be frustrating to see Elliott pull away to a 4-second lead. There you saw the interval, and as Elliott looks in his rearview mirror, he sees this battle taking place, which now has been actually slimmed down to 2 between Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine. Oh, Richard Petty, after a great run, he comes into the pits. It's got to be an unscheduled stop.
Definitely an unscheduled stop, and Dale Emmett and the crew will go to work on the Petty car. You have to probably feel they may have a tire going down, and they will go and work and change right side tires. They've only been in the pits about 33 laps ago. They can actually run close to 50 laps here on fuel, so an unscheduled stop. Dale Emmett and the crew. Ken Wilson, they have Petty off the jack. About 17.5 seconds in the pits for 2 right side tires.
And he was being posted in the 12th position, so this will be costly because there are some 28 cars on the lead lap, so he will drop back dramatically. A tough break for Richard Petty. It looks like he's been, in fact, gone a lap down. There's the battle for 3rd and 4th position. It's being singled out now. Harry Gant goes to the outside of Tim Richmond. He's going to try and take that 3rd position. Actually, he does. That is the battle for 4th spot. Correct me, I'm wrong. There's the battle for 4th and 5th. It is now Gant in 4th. Richmond has faded back to 5th spot. And boy, you can be sure Richmond isn't too satisfied with the way that Harry Hyde car is performing.
No, he's not. But Harry Gant runs this track very well, and Tim Richmond knows that. He knows that Gant gets around this track probably better than any other track he drives. Now, he hasn't won here, but he's finished second twice. And, of course, the 1 second place finish was at the spring race here when he just was passed by Bill Elliott with 4 laps to go.
Well, Richard Petty looks as if he's beginning to put himself back onto pit road again. He's overshot his pit. What about it, Dick Berger? Real severe problem.
Well, it's hard to say, Jack. You know, this could simply be a single equalized tire, but under a green flag, it's hard to change 4 tires without going down a lap. So they changed the right side tires the last time, the left side tires this time. Well, I didn't like the way he overshot their pit. It's not a good thing to have happen, and for a skilled driver like Richard Petty, it's most unusual.
And an equalized tire, as Dick Berger mentions, there's an inner liner in these Goodyear tires, and when the pressure in the inner liner and the outside part of the tire become equal, or the tire equalizes, the tire will bounce and vibrate, and it will literally shake the driver and the entire car almost apart. That's why they made that stop.
Here is the battle for 8th and 9th position. Cale Yard Yarborough has moved into that 8th spot. 9th spot is Bobby Allison, and in 10th spot is Neil Bonnet, another one of the walking wounded. Bonnet, who was hurt back there and couldn't run at Talladega, ran well at the Watkins Glen race just a week ago. But this could be the first time that Bonnet is back at full power after that devastating problem that he had.
They thought the car was really dialed in to run well here. They made a little bit of a miscue in qualifying, got the car a little bit too tight. Bonnet says he feels good. The ribs are still a little bit sore. The punctured lung apparently healing well. He feels like they may have a good chance and a pretty good finish today.
Well, a lot of people have got to be scratching their head. Cale Yarborough moving from that 28th starting position solidly in 8th spot, battling with Bobby Allison. This is the final time that Cale Yarborough will be driving a Waddell Wilson prepared car, but Bobby Allison seems to now have drop-kicked him back to the 9th spot. No! Look at Cale use that lap traffic. That's Mikey Waltrip on the inside in the Hawaiian Punch machine out of the Dick Bear stable. He used it as a back marker, kind of as a blocking move to maintain his 8th position.
Well, Cale Yarborough is not a ballerina. He's not a finesse driver. He's a fullback. He will go full bore like a linebacker, and he will manhandle his way to the front. Deja vu, Jackie. Back in the earlier race in the spring, he started 28th, the same place he started today, and by lap 65, this fella from Taylorsville, South Carolina, was leading.
And that fella, Bobby Allison, he's already won at the world's fastest track this year. Bobby Allison competing in the Winston 500. You saw it here on ESPN, and he just manhandled everybody to go to victory lane. Who says there isn't a future for people over 40?
I tell you, it's the over-the-hill gang, and they're showing it right now. It's Cale Yarborough and Bobby Allison, two old guys, making their way to the front.
A lot of talk about equalized tires. You heard Dick Berggren allude to it in the STP Petty crew. Let's go down to him for a further report on Petty.
Well, Jack, this one didn't equalize. This one blistered. As you can see, there are chunks of rubber missing from this tire. If this is the only car that has this problem, we can attribute it to a suspension problem. Otherwise, why, it could be something else. The Goodyear people say there really is no problem with the tires or the racetrack. It should be just fine today, but Petty is having a problem. That's his left rear, and there's not much left of it.
Dick, that's a very valid point as we continue to watch this battle for 8th position. All of the competitors tend to at least put the end result of their problems upon tires. If one blisters, they say it's a bad tire. But really it goes more into how they actually distribute the weight, right?
Yes, the weight situation, Jackie, has an awful lot to do with it. Now, they try to load the left side of these cars for sure to make them handle better, and if they load it too much, why, that's what you get. You get a blistered tire. If you don't line it right, you could get the right side blistered. The object is to run some heat in the tire, but not too much.
Well, two cars that don't seem to have any weight distribution problem this afternoon are your second and third place runners right there. Dale Earnhardt still holding on to second. Jeff Bodine maintaining his position in third, and they seem to be running the racetrack in what I would call a not conservative line, but one that isn't all that intimidating right now.
They aren't running that hard in the corners. Of course, the fact they both realize if they battle back in the pack, if they swap it back and forth like they were doing a couple laps ago, that just gives Bill Elliott an opportunity to pull Fuller farther away. He's currently now about 3.5 seconds in front of the second place car, Earnhardt.
Well, Earnhardt would like nothing more than to be able to repeat as a Winston Cup champion. He's won it before with Rod Osterlund and company, and he'd like to deliver his first victory, Winston Cup victory for a season, in fact, to Richard Childress. So, it continues to be Bill Elliott out front, Earnhardt in second, Bodine in third, Canton fourth.
I put a good 100.
We are under caution for this man, Greg Sachs, who has wall up the wall on the outside, bringing out the first caution. Bill Elliott is in the pits with Dick Berggren.
He has got a dinged up left front. That color blue looks awfully reminiscent of the color blue we often see on Dale Earnhardt's car. Elliott's going to take on 4 tires, as is just about everybody. Importantly, this is the same car Elliott used here earlier this year to win. Earnhardt also running very, very strong here on the racetrack, also in the pits. Just about every one of the hot dogs is in the pits right now, and they're all doing the same thing. 4 tires, very few guys are taking wedge changes. It's almost all tires and fuel. Earnhardt is out first, followed by Elliott.
It's interesting to watch, Jerry. The Elliott team took the luxury of peeling away the left front quarter panel from that tire in hopes that it wouldn't continue to rub. It might have been a good move, even though they gave up that front position.
Well, an extra few seconds under caution isn't going to hurt anything. They realize their car is dialed in. He's handling awfully well, and the engine is strong. So they want to take a few extra seconds and make sure that their driver, Brother Bill, is going to be okay and not have a problem on the race course.
Here's Dale Earnhardt, likes to hunt, likes to fish, lives up there at Dooley, North Carolina, has a great place. Let's update you, too, on that crash that we saw at Pocono International Raceway. All 3 drivers involved are okay, and that's good news. There's Bill Elliott. He's had his work in Cale Yarborough, 2 of the top Ford competitors, but it's been Bill Elliott, really, the guy that has put the Ford nameplate out front. And it's so interesting to watch the field come to Michigan because it's only about 35 miles away from where the American-made passenger cars are manufactured here in Detroit, the Motor City. And boy, they fill these grandstands with people that build the cars, people that design the cars, and the adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, really comes into play here, doesn't it?
All the factory engineers come here. They like to come, and they talk to the people like Junior Johnson, who's all of their designs are done in the small towns like Ingle Hollow and Rhonda, North Carolina. A lot of activity in the pits and crews trying to get their cars in and out. Darrell Waltrip now moving by. That's Chet Phillip, a young rookie driver who ran in the Indy in 82 and 83. 4 years on the Indy competition, wanted to come and run NASCAR.
Here's Darrell Waltrip having his day this afternoon. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that Waltrip will be leaving the Junior Johnson stable at the end of 1986. And there's Greg Sachs finally getting a tow back to the pits. A tough break for the Dygard team, a team that actually Darrell Waltrip drove for before. So Sachs will come back in. He's retired from competition. Waltrip is out. Your leader, believe it or not, is Terry Labonte. We'll be back.
Dodge Racing.
Back here, still under caution. 65 of 200 scheduled laps have been completed. Your leader is Dale Earnhardt, flanked by Rusty Wallace, Harry Gant, Benny Parsons, and Jeff Bodine. That's your front 5. But under green flag conditions, it's all been one man. That man, Bill Elliott. And this is a guy that calls Jackson, Michigan his second home because of his car owner, Harry Melling. His facility is located here. And Jerry Punch talked to Bill Elliott today.
About this track that you run this place so well?
You know, really, I don't know. This racetrack has been good to, I guess, our combination, whether it's in the car, the way the engine runs, the way I set the car up for the racetrack. I think it's just all that ingredients involved. Every time I've ever run here, I've run pretty well here. Even back when I first started driving, I came here and run well here. I don't know what it is about the racetrack. I really enjoy running it, but that's something that comes with the territory anyway. Anytime you run good at a certain racetrack, you know, you like the racetrack on top of all that.
Well, Bill Elliott has led 29 of the first 65 laps, and right behind him in the rearview mirror is Cale Yarborough. And you pointed out very appropriately that back in the spring race, he started 28th and was really in contention. We're hooked up by radio to the Hardee's machine. Cale Yarborough, this is Jack Arute. It looks like you're making a pretty good run to the front, but then you stopped, mired back there in maybe 8th, 9th, or 10th position. What's the problem?
Well, Jackie, the car's handling pretty good. It just seems like I'm down on horsepower down the straightaways, but, you know, we're just going to keep plugging away at it. Maybe we can do better as the day goes on.
When you're down on horsepower, what type of adjustments do you as a driver have to make to be competitive?
Well, there's not much you can do. You just hope that the racetrack itself gets better and you can run quicker through the turns, but nothing you can do about the speed down the straightaway. We just hope that the track kind of comes to us.
How about that guy, Bill Elliott? He is really beginning to make his move up front. It looks like the same old song here at Michigan.
Yeah, it looks like Bill's running awful good on this restart. I'm going to see if I can kind of hang with him.
Well, that's the word from Cale Yarborough. Let's check in right now. Jerry Punch is going to talk to our ESPN colleague, Benny Parsons, and get a report on him. He was your pole sitter.
Benny Parsons, Jerry Punch up at ESPN. Partner, you had to drop back a little bit at the start. How's it running right now?
Well, Benny's got a problem not only out on the racetrack, but with his radio as well. 1 lap to go when the field comes back beneath starter Harold Kinder. There's Benny Parsons, and one thing, he'll be on the flights with us tonight, Jerry, because so far he hasn't won the race to the airport.
Well, we don't want him to win that race to the airport. We want Benny to stay out there and have a good run today. Of course, he'll be with ESPN at Bristol next week, but we want him to be on this racetrack. He wants to pick up his second win here. His only win came in 1980 there in the Miller 400. That's when he sat on the pole the only previous time.
You know, we've talked so much to Benny Parsons, and he is the first to point out that his work, and there's the smiling visage of Benny, that his work with ESPN is he feels field. Maybe helped him a little bit as a driver, too, because there aren't many people that get a look topside like we do and watch the competition.
Well, Benny's a talented driver. He likes running the limited schedule for Leo Jackson and the Copenhagen folks, and he would really like to make a career in broadcasting. I'm sure he'll be an excellent broadcaster. He already is when he hangs up the helmet, but right now he's doing a pretty good job with the helmet on the racetrack.
Well, Parsons is more concerned today with the revs and the headset. I mean, actually the headset for his radio to Leo Jackson than countdowns into commercials. Next week, Benny will have those problems, but right now he's gunning down or staring down one of his colleagues, Harry Gant, and that's going to be a battle for position. The field does what they call the tighten up down the backstretch. They're getting set for a resumption of racing activity here at Michigan International Speedway. As we said, Dale Earnhardt, by virtue of some quick pit work, has found his position at the front of the pack. He will be followed in second position by Rusty Wallace, who's having a great run. The Pontiac pace car is going to dip to the inside, going back up to full speed comes Earnhardt and Wallace. They're trying to shake Gant and Parsons. Parsons and Gant are running fourth and third respectively. This race is back under green flag conditions, and we will keep you apprised of the run to the front by Bill Elliott should it develop. But right now, it is a battle for the front position. Going to the inside is Rusty Wallace, trying to take the front spot that's retained by Dale Earnhardt. They are side by side. Now Wallace has got the advantage. He pulls out in front of Earnhardt down the backstretch.
And Rusty Wallace can thank his pit crew for that opportunity. He came in late on that pit stop. They put him back out right behind the leader, Earnhardt. Wallace, who turned 30 years old 3 days ago. They've been calling him old man all week. He wants to show up. He's still got something left.
Still plenty of competition for Rusty Wallace. He's out front, but looking, just staring him down up against the rear decklet is that guy, Dale Earnhardt. He is literally one tough customer. Earnhardt just sneaks a peek to the inside. Wallace is very loose. In fact, he may have thrown a dummy to Wallace on the inside there, but Dick Berggren has got a report on maybe a potential problem on Rusty Wallace's mount.
No, it's not a problem, Jack. It's an asset, as a matter of fact. It's one of the most wind tunnel tested cars out here. The team says that they have had about 40 hours in the wind tunnel with that automobile. In addition to having a very slippery body, they've also got an engine that they are very, very excited about. Rusty said Harold put together a real killer motor for him.
Well, this slugfest that's taking place up front has been to the advantage of third, fourth, fifth, and sixth places, respectively. Down to the inside comes Bill Elliott, who's come back from fifth position. He tries to get around Rusty Wallace for that second spot. Earnhardt is in front. Jeff Bodine gets around Wallace to take over third position. Here comes Elliott on the inside. He's going for the lead.
Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, Georgia, now trying to go by Dale Earnhardt. 70 laps in the books here, Jackie. It looks like Elliott wants back up to the point.
Boy, you would think that Bill Elliott was posing for a muscle magazine. He just flex it, gets it taut, takes over that front position, drops Earnhardt back to second. Going to third is Rusty Wallace. Fourth is Bodine. On the inside, it looks like it is, yes, it's Neil Bonnet looking for that fifth position. And the crowd, you can take the seats away. They're standing up cheering.
They're waving hats, anything they can get their hands on. And they are yelling. They're watching the battle up front between Elliott, who really is a hometown driver here. Car owner just 20 miles away. Harry Belling lives in Jackson, Michigan. And they want Bill Elliott to pick up where he left off and win here. But the battle, Jack, is back.
Well, Bodine and Bonnet both have picked up the tune for third position. There's Bodine on the inside of the third spot of Rusty Wallace. Bodine's got third. Wallace drops back to fourth. And there's Bonnet taking over fifth from Benny Parsons. Boy, what a torrid battle as they round out of turn four once again. Side by side for that third spot.
This has to be one of the best runs Neil Bonnet's had in a long time. He has been aching and been awfully sore. They felt that Doug Reichert and Tim Brewer could put this car on the racetrack and Neil Bonnet could make a winner out of it. This is the car they destroyed or nearly destroyed in Atlanta earlier in the year. They haven't run the car since. It's been in mothballs out behind the shop. They brought it out, cleaned it up, fixed it up, and brought it here to Michigan.
Well, Jeff Bodine has appropriated that third position. Now the battle is for fourth spot. The pass on the inside. It's Bonnet trying to get around Wallace. And boy, Benny Parsons also battling with Cale Yarborough. He loses a little ground to Yarborough for that sixth position. There's Bonnet rim riding on the inside of Wallace, looking for the fifth position. Will Bonnet have it at the stripe? It's too close to call. Yes, he gets it, but just by a scant inch. Wallace climbs the ladder back up on the high side. There is Yarborough, staying glued to his rear decklet. Just a tremendous battle for that fourth position.
That whole gaggle of cars now closing up. We saw a minute ago is Cale Yarborough battling back in the pack. There's 7 cars, now making 8 cars. Richard Petty, the 7-time champion back there. Here's Richmond making a move down on the inside. He will make a move underneath Parsons.
What a quick tip to the inside. He squeezes Benny out of the spot for 6th position. It's held by Yarborough. Then he just doesn't have enough momentum. He gives Parsons that 7th position. Morgan Shepherd has 8. And look, Richmond's faded back to 9th spot.
Well, if you go downstairs in the draft and you just dance and don't have a partner, you'll get left outside and they'll slide by. Look back, watching is Richard Petty, some 4 car lengths back, watching the battle of cars weaving and bobbing up front. He doesn't want to be a victim like he's been so many times this year already.
How about Bobby Allison back there in 11th position? He just loses it to Joe Ruttman. Ruttman just squeezes to the inside very nicely, thank you, and moves himself into 11th position.
Now they all file single file. It's time to breathe a couple of times, get a deep breath, and Allison now pulls out to make the move.
Also time to try it once again for Bobby Allison. He looks to the inside of Joe Ruttman. Boy, it looked like close quarters racing there in that shot.
Well, Allison now down at the bottom of the racetrack. It looks like Petty will try to go around him. You think these guys have any experience? Probably 85 years of racing experience between these 2 drivers, Bobby Allison and Richard Petty.
Now, let's remind you that Richard Petty, by virtue of those tire problems, that blistered rear tire, he is 1 lap off the pace, so he isn't actually battling for position, he's battling for prestige. There's the battle, though, for 2nd position. On the inside is Jeff Bodine. Dale Earnhardt looks over outside the screen and sees it filled with Bodine on the inside. Bodine beginning to build the revs, gets the horsepower, dives into turn number 3, and he has got the spot.
And the call on Earnhardt's car is the car does not appear to be very stable on the racetrack. Richard Childress and the crew have to be thinking down in the pits now, what's wrong with the car? They've seen the car bob and weave going into the corners. Maybe it's a little bit loose. Maybe they need to tighten it down. Possibly a tire. Anything could be happening. Earnhardt is going to stay in the throttle, but he lets Bodine by.
77 laps of the 200 schedule have been completed. Elliott continues to lead, but the battle has been torn for this 2nd position. Jeff Bodine currently holds it. Dale Earnhardt had it for a while, but he's faded back to 3rd. There's the separation between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's 1.42 seconds. Bodine tries to turn the wick up on the Hendrick Motorsports entry to chase down Bill Elliott, but he is beginning to pull away just a tad from Dale Earnhardt after that battle. There's the battle for 5th position. Cale Yarborough has got it, but he's holding off Rusty Wallace. And now Richmond. Look at Richmond going way down low. What an radical line. It's costing him, though.
Well, he lost the draft, and now he is sliding back in the field with Yarborough, Cale Yarborough, the Pimlico bullfighter, clawing his way to the front. He now is in 5th spot.
Did you see Wallace
trying to hang on? Morgan Shepherd gathers it back in, and both those drivers save what could have been an awful spectacular accident in turn 1.
You talk about running at 165 miles per hour like walking on a tightrope. It's more like walking on piano wire when you look at the move by Rusty Wallace. He is just running at full song, but it was costly for him. Yarborough has retained the 5th position. Let's take a look at the way Rusty Wallace got loose, Jerry.
Well, Rusty trying to run hard in the corner behind Cale Yarborough. The car drifts up on him, it gets sideways, the rear end begins to break loose. He's trying to keep the car on the wall. Morgan Shepherd hard on the brakes right there, trying to keep him going into Wallace.
And Bobby Allison has brought his Miller American entry onto pit road. Boy, do you think maybe that just gave him the fear of God just a bit, or is he coming in with terminal problems?
Well, Bobby Hudson and the crew are talking to him. They're looking in the front end. A little bit of smoke out beneath the front of the car. The fact that they're not working that quickly on the car is a bad sign. They motion Allison. He pulls back away. And we'll have to check with Dick Berger to see what that unscheduled stop was about.
Whenever you see smoke emanating from the hood, beneath the hood like that, you can be sure that they're sending him back out just to check things out. But it's obvious that there are problems for Bobby Allison. That's unfortunate because he was running quite well until he pulled out. In fact, he was in 11th position right in the heat of the battle. Here is your battle for 9th position. Rusty Wallace has recovered nicely, thank you. He holds down 9th spot. Morgan Shepherd has moved into the 10th position. 11th spot is Harry Gant. Now remember, Richard Petty is 1 lap down, but he is in that gaggle of cars for that 10th position. So the racing continues here with Elliott out front, Bodine in 2nd, Earnhardt 3rd, Bonnet is in 4th, and Cale Yarborough in 5th. We'll be back with more. Back at Michigan International Speedway, the 3rd caution of the afternoon has come out for Morgan Shepherd in the Jack Beebe machine. A problem for Shepherd in turn 3 and 4.
Morgan Shepherd here running with Rusty Wallace. Just moments ago, Shepherd had got on the binders to try to keep him getting into Wallace. This time he spins it. Ooh, tags the wall with the left rear of the car. Heavily damaged. Good move by Waltrip the missing. Here's Bobby Hillen, who got on the inside of him. Labonte slides by, and Shepard's mangled Buick comes to a rest on the inside track apron.
There's also been problems down on pit road, but not for Bill Elliott. They're exchanging the tires on the left side of the machine. Everybody in the front positions have made their presence known on pit road. Kind of an opportune time, too. They haven't had to put a lot of heat back into those tires. They'll make the exchange, and it'll be Bill Elliott out with the rest of them. But Dick Bergeron's got a story developing down on pit road. Let's go to him now.
Well, Bobby Allison is in here right now, and he's in the process of trying to get his car to run again. The engine is silent. They're preparing to put a new fuel pump in and trying to take the old one off. Very, very difficult to work on these hot engines on pit road, so these guys are not having a good time. But they're the only ones that seem to have a major problem at the moment.
Well, we heard Bobby Allison on his radio talk to his crew chief while we were away on commercial and said, guys, get ready to take the fuel pump apart because maybe that's where the problem is. So there you see Bobby Allison. Not a place he'd like to be resting on pit road, but he'll be back, you can be sure. We'll have more from the Champion Spark Plug 400 right after these messages.
We have completed 34 laps of this 200-lap, 500-miler at Pocono International Raceway, and the leader is Mario Andretti. A great battle for second position right now finds Kevin Kogan running second, Rick Mears third, Johnny Rutherford fourth, but there they are battling for that spot. Johnny Rutherford moving to the inside of Rick Mears and taking over third spot. Kogan, Rutherford, and Mears have been going at it wheel to wheel since we came off our most recent yellow, which was caused by an incident in turn number 1 involving Ed Pym. Light contact with the wall, and Al Unser Sr. was also involved in that incident. Now, we will have this race for you here on ESPN at 5:30 this afternoon Eastern Time. A first lap crash knocked out Johnny Parsons, Dennis Firestone, and Scott Brayton, but all of those drivers are okay. Once again, Mario Andretti leads here at Pocono after 35 laps. Now, let's go back to more of the Champion Spark Plug 400 at Michigan International Speedway.
Thank you, Bob. A great report there from Pocono International Raceway. And don't forget, you're going to be able to see it in its entirety here later today. Boy, some great stops. ESPN, Bill Elliott. These people in Michigan love both, don't they? But some good stops during that last period by Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, Cale Yarborough. They were excellent by all three. Could be that that'll come into very favorable play later on. But Dale Earnhardt is your leader. Look who runs in second, Joe Ruttman. And David Pearson has moved into third spot. Now, Pearson, this is only the second time, actually the second time that Pearson has competed. Oh, a problem.
Well, another
Jeff Bodine, that's not good.
No, it's not, Jackie. He's back in the pits. They had come in and changed tires. They're looking under the left front of the car, possibly a brake problem or something in the chassis. Gary Nelson and the Levi Garrett crew have the car on the jacks, and Bodine now sits in the pits.
Boy, you want to talk about activity? How about next weekend? Well, we'll be giving you the coverage of a big NASCAR doubleheader. Auto Racing 86, there you see it. Busch 500 qualifying, a nighttime event this Friday night. It begins at 7:30 p.m. And following that, it'll be the Tri-City Pontiac 200. And a lot of great Grand National competitors, including Dale Jarrett, who won his first ever, will be there in that. We'll be back here at Michigan right after this. There you see the wounded remains of the Morgan Shepherd car. He is out of the race, but Jerry, some good news. He's okay.
Yeah, he climbed from the car and appears to be okay, but that Buick will go back to the scrap heap, Jackie. That's the car they won with in Atlanta earlier in the year in the Motorcraft race back in March rather. They finished 6th in that car in Talladega, but that car looks like it'll have to be rebuilt. Of course, the team is going away. Unfortunately, we understand Jack Beebe will probably not operate the team anymore, or may even sell to someone else, a fellow we know right now by the name of Cale Yarborough.
Well, there's a lot of talk about that, but there's also a lot of activity on pit road, and Dick Bergeron is there with Jeff Bodine's crew.
Boy, there's a lot of activity going on, not only in pit road, Jack, but also in the garage. Bodine, he's got a passel of problems. He can't talk to his crew still to tell them what's wrong, but his crew thinks he's got at least 3 problems. 1, the radio. He can't talk to them. 2, they think he's stuck in high gear. 3, they think the alternator's going out. But he's got company with trouble because Ricky Rudd is behind pit wall, and they're doing a new ring and pinion in his car. They got the center section out of that rear end. They're going to put a new one in. Mike Waltrip is in the garage area. They have the rear end of his car jacked up, and they're going at the left rear corner with a torch. One of the bearings froze up. They're torching the old bearing off. They're going to try to replace it with a new one. These guys are working hard today.
Try to get any of that kind of work done at your local gas station or service station. They'll say you want it when, and these guys are trying to do it in maybe 20, 30 minutes to get back into competition. Here's Neil Bonnet taking a look at him, and we've alluded to the fact that he's run so well here after the myriad of injuries. Jerry Punch talked to him about those injuries earlier this week.
It's been a pretty rough last few months for you here, and particularly the last few weeks. Tell us about your injury and how you're coming along.
Well, the biggest thing we've had some failures, you know, falling out of some races really hurt. And at Pocono, I pretty well got myself in the kind of condition I had to miss a race, and I kind of surprised myself at Watkins Glen. I didn't think I could perform like I needed to. I was hoping I could, but the injuries are pretty well going away now. I had some broken ribs, and I knocked a hole in my lung. The thing that's really had me down. I haven't been able to get my breath like I need to, but other than those minor details, we're ready to go racing for the rest of the year.
Well, he looks like he is indeed ready to go racing. He's posted in 4th position as we're getting ready to return to green flag competition. And Bonnet is another one of those guys that's being talked about as a replacement driver. Looks like he will be going to the number 75 car, the one that was driven by Jim Sauter today before it retired. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. But we're getting ready to resume racing as the field is going down the backstretch. Let's check in quickly with Dick Berggren.
Jack, I can confirm that Neil Bonnet is going to the 75 car. The team confirmed it to me this morning. They have a 3-year deal. He will complete the season, but then it's going to be to the 75.
Not the first time he's been with the 75 car. There's Neil Bonnet. He drove in the Warner Hodgson days with the Butch Mock Bob Rahili team, and he is, as we said, presently shown in 4th position in the Junior Johnson prepared Budweiser Chevrolet, led by crew chief Tim Brewer. And it looks like the yellow has indeed come out one more time. So we're going to go back and pay some bills. We'll give you all the activity here from Michigan, so don't go away. It's the Champion Spark Plug 400. We're back here at Michigan International Speedway. I'm Jack Arute, along with Dr. Jerry Punch and Dr. Dick Berggren to give you the activities here in the Champion Spark Plug 400. There's Jeff Bodine just limping along, trying to catch back up with the gaggle of cars that are getting ready to restart this Champion Spark Plug 400. It will be Dale Earnhardt bringing Joe Ruttman down in 2nd, David Pearson in 3rd, Neil Bonnet in 4th, Bobby Hillen has moved into 5th, Bill Elliott is 6th, Cale Yarborough 7th, 8th is to Rusty Wallace, 9th is to Benny Parsons, and in 10th is Darrell Waltrip on the restart. Coming up to full song, they throttle into the start-finish line area again. This race is back to green, and it is Kyle Petty, several laps down, doing battle with Dale Earnhardt as they go into turn 1.
And we'll see what Joe Ruttman, the 41-year-old Upland, California driver, can do with Earnhardt, but it looks like Earnhardt may have a shot to pull away. Earnhardt now pulls 4 car lengths on Ruttman and the rest of the field.
Now, the rest of the field is somewhat sandwiched behind 2 lapped cars. Ruttman is broken away from the pack, but the 2 Petty laps down. It looks like not actually holding back David Pearson and Neil Bonnet, who are running 3rd and 4th, but making it a carving job, like a hot knife through butter. Pearson makes the stab first. He goes to the inside of Richard Petty. He's solidly in the 3rd position, now looking for the 2nd spot held by Joe Ruttman. Now Bonnet follows him through, as does Elliott.
David Pearson, the winningest driver in the history of Michigan International Speedway, has 9 victories, and that won't stop Neil Bonnet, who slides by on the inside. He cranks Pearson back 1 more spot. Richard Petty, as you said, Jack, a lap down, but he's not giving up. He's holding a spot between Pearson and Bill Elliott.
Something about pride with Richard Petty. Even though he may be a lap down, he wants to show that he's still got the strength. He is running there with that lead contingent, and there is Bonnet, who is presently in the 3rd position. Bonnet, Ruttman, and Earnhardt. Earnhardt to the left, the right of your, actually the left of your screen as they come through. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd single file. Then in 4th position, as we said, is David Pearson. 5th spot now goes to Bill Elliott, and there is Petty being flanked on the inside by the runner for that 6th position. And it looks like problems with Neil Bonnet's machine. Telltale smoke, engine problem.
Well, possibly. It looks like he may have hit the brakes a little bit going in the corner, and the brakes may have locked up on that left front wheel and produced some smoke. And here's David Simcoe in the car number 51, one of the Michigan drivers that normally is an ARCA competitor, and he apparently has a ruptured engine.
Tough break, because those ARCA competitors, they love to get the chance to run here at Michigan. He has had to cut it off. It looks like he's spraying for mosquitoes down the backstretch. So far, no caution has been displayed. The reason for that, you see the white line. He was well below it and out of the racing groove. Meanwhile, up front, Joe Ruttman. Kudos have got to go to this driver. He's worked his way to the front with the Kenny Bernstein machine. He's solidly in second position. That is not tire smoke from Neil Bonnet's machine in third.
Well, I tell you, going into one, apparently when he's just braking going into one, he gets some smoke from beneath the left side of the car, but we'll have to wait and see. The car apparently running well down the back straightaway, but you have to give a call to Joe Ruttman. You have to consider, he's reading all the press. Everyone thinks he's going to lose that ride. They're guessing 3 or 4 guys are in line to take his place. He is driving his heart out there trying. He would love to get a win to show he can do the job.
And look at Bill Elliott. He's climbed the ladder once again and challenging Neil Bonnet on the outside for third position. Across the stripe, he puts out the hook, reels it in. He's got third, and it looks like now he's gone fishing for second as well. Bill Elliott is again on the move here at Michigan.
Elliott climbing back into third spot. As we look back, we see the Neil Bonnet car back behind Elliott, and further back, right behind Bonnet, making a move just out of the picture. Coming in is young Bobby Hillen. Bobby Hillen, a 22-year-old driver who won at the Talladega 500. There you see Hillen back behind, going around the efforts of Neil Bonnet.
Actually, that's David Pearson, who looks like he's beginning to make a move on Neil Bonnet as well. He gets by him in satisfactory condition. And Elliott has now taken over that second position, and that was indeed Hillen who took over the fourth spot from Bonnet.
Bobby Hillen making a move now that Bill Elliott is going around Joe Ruttman, and Bonnet trying to hang on to that car. You see that smoke getting worse and worse now, that in turn one. You have to wonder, maybe the brakes in the left front of the car are locking up. They may be bottoming out a shock or something on that suspension. Whenever he goes into one and unloads the car, all that force on the left front tire, he is getting a lot of smoke. So Bonnet will come down pit road this time, and we'll see if Tim Brewer, Doug Reichert, and the crew can find out, can diagnose the problem on the Budweiser Chevrolet.
Well, it's a disappointed Neil Bonnet who is actually fading quickly. Bonnet's pit, the report is they are watching us on television to see if maybe they can determine what the problem is on the car. There's Doug Reichert and Tim Brewer talking to Neil Bonnet, trying to report what they see on the monitor. Now Bonnet is severely out of the throttle.
And again showing smoke as Alvin Kolicki goes by. Neil Bonnet, he has really had his troubles this year. You've got to feel for him. He drove his heart out last week at Watkins Glen for the 5th place finish. Only the second top 5 finish this veteran campaigner has had all year long.
Boy, you just hate to see that. They've prepared that car so well, but look at Dale Earnhardt. He continues to lead, but not for long, I suspect. Bill Elliott, you can hear the footsteps. He's right glued to the rear deck lid of Earnhardt's car, just stalking him, waiting for a miscue. He goes to the inside, down into turn 1. He's looking for the position. It's Elliott down low. He makes the pass smoothly. He's got it. Earnhardt's drop kick back to second. Meanwhile, Neil Bonnet has put himself on pit road, and the battle is still out on the racetrack for the front position. Here comes Earnhardt down on the inside. He says, I want it back. He looks for the spot midway down the backstretch. There's Huff to Huff as they hurdle into turn number 3. Who will it be? Earnhardt's got the advantage, but not by much. Here's Elliott on the high side through 3 and going to 4. Bill Elliott has the Thunderbird at full song. Earnhardt loose, gathers it back in, stays sandwiched right side by side as they come to the stripe. Who will it be? It's Earnhardt by inches. Now Elliott goes into that front position. Unbelievable, Jerry.
What racing here at Michigan is now Earnhardt takes the Chevrolet and takes it back up front. You have to wonder if Ernie Elliott has told his brother Bill, hey, cool it a little bit. We have almost 100 laps, a little over 100 laps to go yet. No use showing anything right now. Stay with him, but don't use the car up, as now Bill Elliott has fallen back in behind Dale Earnhardt.
There are 98 laps and 200 completed, and Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott made it look like there were only 2 laps to go in this event. Here's Earnhardt. Now it looks like maybe they've settled down. They sparred a little bit, showed their muscle, and I think they're just going to let it ride for a little while now, and your point may be well taken by the counseling from Ernie Elliott back to Bill Elliott.
Well, Ernie is the oldest of the 3 brothers. There's Ernie, Bill, and Dan. And Ernie, who certainly has been the missing link this year, he came back. The first race back from his illness was this race here in June, and that's the one that Bill won. So they certainly missed Ernie all year long. So what that swapping a minute ago between Earnhardt and Elliott did was give a chance for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th place competitors. That is Ruttman back in 3rd, Bobby Hillen in 4th, and Benny Parsons in 5th. Gave those cars a chance to reel in the lead too.
it's got to be difficult when you're running in that third position to be able to maintain your emotional poise, not to want to dart up there and get in the battle. But Joe Ruttman showed it. He stayed back there in third. It is still Dale Earnhardt leading Bill Elliott as they come across the stripe, and they are now in the halfway mark. This race is official, but the weather is no problem. We'll see this one go the distance this afternoon. Ruttman is still in third spot. In fourth position is Bobby Hillin, and here is the battle again for that front position. Elliott goes downstairs one more time. I don't think he really cares what Ernie has to say.
Well, you have to think, look at Bill Elliott. He's riding downstairs, but Earnhardt is not going to give up these two young drivers running door to door. The Chevrolet awfully strong in the corners, but Elliott's car is dialed in on the bottom of the racetrack.
No question about that, and it looks much stabler than that Chevrolet in very specific areas of this racetrack. There you see Earnhardt. What a contrast. Way high as he comes across the stripe. Elliott way down low. Now, they come a little bit more together as they come in the corner, but it's still downstairs for Elliott, upstairs for Earnhardt.
That's an indication of exactly how wide this racetrack is. It's 75 feet wide in the corners, and actually, if the corners weren't banked, you could land a 747. That's how wide it is. It looks like a major runway at a metropolitan airport.
Well, finally, things seem to have stabilized up front, but just for a moment. It's still Earnhardt out front, Elliott in second, Bonnet in the garage area. Here in the Irish Hills of Michigan, Jackaroo, Jerry Punch, and Dr. Dick Berggren covering the action where Bill Elliott continues to lead the Champion Spark Plug 400. Dale Earnhardt is in second. Joe Ruttman, a good run in third position. Benny Parsons in fourth. Bobby Hillin Jr. in the fifth spot. But the battle thus far has been for sixth and seventh position. There's Elliott leading this event. A good separation now between himself and Dale Earnhardt. That is stabilized. That battle up front, they did their thing, and now they're settling down for a few more laps before they go back at it with each other. Here is fourth position, and that is Benny Parsons. He is running with Jeff Bodine. Bodine, you had the concern, the problems. Bodine is appropriated the fourth spot from Parsons. He is moving back up to the front again. No radio. You heard them talk about that. Dick Berggren told you about some of the other problems, the alternator, etc. But it doesn't seem to be hurting him right now. Meanwhile, Rusty Wallace has brought his car on pit road as Bodine closes in on the rear deck lid of Joe Ruttman for third position. Here comes Bodine. He is gobbling up real estate as they head to turn 3. He looks at the lapped race traffic, backs out of the throttle just a moment. It's over there in the left-hand part of your screen. Bodine sneaks to the outside. Is he going to get Ruttman? Ruttman bobbled for a bit, Jerry.
Well, Joe Ruttman, apparently his car slipping a little bit in the corner, but Bodine's car is dialed in so well. Gary Nelson being well known for being a good chassis man, and he has that car dialed in. And with all that problems that you heard Dick Berggren talking about, you've got to feel that Jeff Bodine is really trying to move back toward the front.
Do you think maybe that also Joe Ruttman was a little surprised about how quick Jeff Bodine closed on him?
I'm sure he surprised him, but I think he saw him in his mirror coming and realized he didn't want to give up anything this early in the race.
One of the things we talk about all the time here on ESPN as a regular feature is our little educational vignettes where you get an inside look at some of the subtle and not so subtle points of the sport. Now, here with another NASCAR track fact, here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
You're looking at a master kill switch, the switch that NASCAR has required on all 1986 Winston Cup cars. This switch eliminates electricity going from the battery to the main circuitry in the car. In the case of an accident, a safety worker or driver could get out of the car and flip this switch, eliminating all electricity from the battery in the car, therefore eliminating the possible likelihood of a fire from an arc or spark in the engine compartment.
The track fact has been brought to you by Levi Garrett. Continues here at the Champion Spark Plug 400. Elliott leads Earnhardt with Bodine in third and Ruttman in fourth. A good look at the massive crowd here at Michigan International Speedway as we bring you the Napa mid-race recap. We're halfway through the event, and let's take a look at what's transpired so far. There you see your current leader is Dale Earnhardt. He's led 18 laps. The margin after that 100 laps was 1/10 of a second. And Elliott, well, he was the lap leader with over 40 laps led. He is still in contention. Average speed, a respectable 138.99 miles per hour. Not as many cautions as one would have thought. 16 cars in the lead lap seems to be the norm here at Michigan International Raceway, and 33 cars still running. That gives us a lot of great racing left. Well, out of the race, Baker, Wilson, Tommy Ellis, Mike Waltrip, Greg Sachs, you saw him crash. Dave Marcus just pulled out a while back. Morgan Shepherd crashed. Jim Sauter retired. David Simcoe behind the wall. And the last casualty, before we went to commercial, you saw it, Neil Bonnet. They're all retired from this Champion Spark Plug 400. Now, let's go down to Dick Berger and our pit colleague as he can fill us in with some problems on Rusty Wallace's machine.
Well, Jack, I think what's going on here in Wallace's car is Rusty is really driving aggressively. Here's the reason he just pitted. You can see that he made contact with somebody else. The tire gets soft. When it gets soft, it blistered. But this isn't the only car Rusty's gotten contact with. Here's another Rusty Wallace tire. You'll notice a different color. Another Rusty Wallace tire. You'll notice a different color. And this one sort of looks like the wall a little bit. So Rusty is definitely running very hard. Everybody is running hard here today. We had 6 crashes in practice, and many people in the pits were worried that this was going to be a crash-strewn race. It is not. They're just worried about going fast and winning this thing.
Talking about Rusty Wallace, your leader, Bill Elliott, has just passed him to put him 1 lap down. There's plenty of more racing here to come on ESPN at the Champion Spark Plug 400, so none of you go away, okay? This car and this driver, Bill Elliott, continue to lead the Champion Spark Plug 400. It seems like they're playing the same old tune here in the Irish Hills of Michigan, where Elliott has won 3 in a row, 3 consecutive races here. He's looking for an unprecedented 4th this afternoon, and he has a 4.43 second advantage over this second place man, Dale Earnhardt. That is Rusty Wallace, who is 1 lap down now. Watch the separation. Earnhardt is not even in your picture yet. There's Earnhardt. There is the distance, 4.43 seconds. And Jeff Bodine runs approximately 0.2 of a second behind Earnhardt in the 3rd position. Bodine, who had a litany of problems reported during the last pit sequence, seems to have solved some of them. He is running without a radio, but running strong enough to show in 3rd spot. Earnhardt, who all afternoon has been running fine, but a little loose and not capable of closing in on Bill Elliott. So Earnhardt is in 2nd, Bodine is in 3rd. Now, let's go back to 4th position, because this is a guy that really deserves the call. Joe Ruttman in car number 26, the Buick from the Kenny Bernstein stable. He knows that he's feeling the heat. There's been a lot of talk. In fact, there was some talk that an offer was made in Watkins Glen to one man by the name of Darrell Waltrip to get out of his Hendrick contract to drive this car. Ruttman seems to feel the heat. He has actually responded to it quite nicely this afternoon. He is in 4th position. The man directly behind him, you'll hear him on this same microphone next week at Bristol International Raceway. But this afternoon, Benny Parsons is trying his darndest to go from the pole position that he won early yesterday afternoon and grab a victory here at MIS. So far, he has not shown the muscle. He's mired back in that 5th position. The average speed so far in the race, 141.26 miles per hour. Everything has stabilized with the exception of this battle here for the front 5 positions.
Jeff, we might make mention that while we were away at commercial, Harry Gant made an unscheduled pit stop. He'd only run about 30 laps since his last green flag stop, and they can actually go around 50 laps. They came in and made a 4-tire change. According to our calculations here, he did not lose a lap, but he'll be very close to being lapped.
This is a very interesting study. Benny Parsons continually going down into that first turn. Takes aim on Joe Ruttman. Then they peel off like fighter pilots. Ruttman down to the low side, Parsons to the high side. It seems as if they've got a lot of separation. Then when they come back together at the end of the backstretch, they are glued nose to tail. Well, this time Ruttman has got a little bit of an advantage over Parsons as they wing through turns 3 and 4. There's Joe Ruttman, as we said. Possibly a lame duck driver for the Raymond Beetle team. Benny Parsons, as we said, running in that 5th spot, trying to gun down the Buick of Joe Ruttman and take over 4th position.
Joe Ruttman won an ARCA race here at this track, this 2-mile Michigan Oval in 1980. That's his only win here. He knows how to get around this racetrack, and he would like to have a winner today. We talked about the people who make it in that car. Ruttman's best finish, second at Richmond and Martinsville. You know, and he said we said four top 10 finishes in the last 6 outings. He hears the footsteps. He knows what the rumors are. We mentioned the fact that Darrell Waltrip may have had an offer at Watkins Glen. Morgan Shepherd is also on that list. And a young driver, Davey Allison, Bobby Allison's young son. Kenny Bernstein also thinking about possibly putting him in the car, because Davey did a super job subbing for Neil Bonnet 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at Talladega.
Well, stay tuned, because we'll keep you abreast of everything that's happening, not only here in NASCAR, but in kart and Formula One and IMSA, as the silly seasons come to full song as we head into the September and October months. Parsons, it looked like he was going to try and make a run on Ruttman, but ran out of handles. It's not really horsepower from the looks of things. It's handling down there in the corners.
It's obvious from Vinny's pole-sitting speed. In fact, you know, he qualified with the race engine in the car. So this is the engine that Vinny qualified on the pole. The car is not handling real well. The car is pushing up across the racetrack going into turns 1 and 3, and that's where Vinny loses the ground on Joe Ruttman.
Well, as we watch Dale Earnhardt try to chase down Bill Elliott in first and second position, there's Elliott now. He's got a sizable lead over Earnhardt, and Dick Berggren has a report on Earnhardt's condition.
Jack, what they're going to try to do down here is make Earnhardt faster. They say there's really nothing wrong with the car, per se. Their only problem is Bill Elliott. He's faster. So what they've been working on here, and I mean they've really been working on it hard, is tires. They're going to try to adjust the suspension of Earnhardt's cars with tires. And they have tried all kinds of things. They've been measuring, marking, blowing them up, letting them down, and fooling around with everything they've got. This conversation has involved virtually every member of the team. Believe it, the next pit stop will be very, very important for Dale Earnhardt. What they decide and what they do may well spell the difference for him at the end of the race.
Pit stops are a lot like performing brain surgery. One miscue and you can be troubled for the rest of the race. There's Neil Bonnet. Quick work back in the garage area. Jerry and Tim Brewer and company have gotten him back into the race.
You know, it would be easy for Neil Bonnet to just climb out of the car and park it. You know he has to be awfully sore. You heard him talk about his injuries earlier in the year, and he probably would like to get out of the car and just take a sigh of relief, but he's not. He's going to stay out there and fight it out. He wants to finish up high in the points. He's already missed one race, but he wants to get a good finish if possible. And the reason he wants to finish is because these guys have worked so hard to bring this car back from a scrap heap in Atlanta and put him back in the field here at Michigan.
One thing about the entire Junior Johnson stable that we've noticed in the last couple of weeks, with Bonnet departing, Waltrip departing, the spirit is still there. It's still real strong for Junior Johnson and the entire crews, even though both drivers aren't going to return next year.
Well, Junior Johnson has the magic. He definitely has the magic that makes people win championships. He motivates people. Drivers, crewmen, anybody associated with Junior Johnson is going to be a winner.
The guy that started on the outside pole, well, he's still in competition here. That's Tim Richmond. He's being shown in 6th position. There's got to be a bitter pill to swallow for Tim Richmond. That's the furthest back that he's ever run in the last 4 to 6 races. We caught up with Tim Richmond just a couple of days ago and tried to slow him down long enough to find out what makes Tim Richmond tick. Do you think maybe that all of that success that you had right from day one gave you the opportunity to look at the sport differently than some of your peers that maybe had to suffer through some lean years?
When I very first started racing, I wanted to do things to be recognized outside of my driving in a race car on a racetrack, you know. I mean, little things, you know, and believe me, I didn't go to college. This was just common sense that I felt, well, what can I do to be a little bit different, that if they can't remember me on the racetrack for whatever reason, they might remember me for off the racetrack. So I tried to come up with a theme, not color-wise, but style-wise, and I always had the one red sleeve, and the rest of it was a different color, or at least one sleeve different. And that was my way of, you know, before maybe I got all the accolades on the racetrack, I was trying to get some off the racetrack. So, you know, I was just trying to create some attention before I created it with this thing right here.
Probably one of the more memorable occasions before you came to Winston Cup racing was in 1980 when you rode to victory lane with Johnny Rutherford. Did you think about that when you did it, or was it just a spur-of-the-moment thing?
You know, it's amazing how many people in that situation of Rutherford and I going to victory lane together, how many people thought that was a planned, you know, premeditated situation there. And in fact, it wasn't. You know, I ran out of fuel. Believe me, if I would have not tried to run out of fuel, and because I would have finished probably 5th, I guess, instead of 9th. But then I was talking to the crowd, you know, waving and stuff and having a good time, and JR drove behind me, and I didn't even see him, and I was looking at the crowd, and they were going, you know, like they were going, look over here, and I looked to my left, and there was Rutherford, and, you know, I could just see his hand in there motioning me, come on, and I ran up to the car, and, you know, those things were pretty fragile at the time, the side pods, and I said, right here, and he said, yeah, get on. So I got on, and, you know, I knew he'd won the thing, and he said, where'd you finish? And I said, I don't know. And it was kind of like a joke. I said, where'd you finish at? I said, you did win it, didn't you? And he said, yeah. And so then I held his hand up, and, you know, I was a little embarrassed of holding the number 1 sign up because I was doing it for him. So I held the number 1 up and pointed to his helmet, and, you know, it's not bad to go to victory lane either in a car or on a car in Indianapolis.
And yet your trips to victory lane in Winston Cup racing have really been incredible, especially this year. It looks as if finally there's a new maturity to Tim Richmond, not only behind the wheel, but also with the public. It's like Tim Richmond has gone to phase 2 of his career.
Well, I agree. You know, there's phases for everybody's lives. You know, what happens this year is the phase prior to what happens the next year, the following year. And, you know, and I had the hair and the long hair and the beard last year and things, but that was the phase to get to this phase. But this phase isn't, you know, I'm doing some interviews here and things like that, but things are not that much different.
If you were forced to choose solely between fame and fortune, which would Tim Richmond take?
Absolutely fortune. Much rather go for the fortune than the fame.
Well, while Tim Richmond has been seeking fortune during that interview, all of the leaders have made their presence known on pit road, the majority of them, that is. Bill Elliott was the first to come into the pits. Quick action by that Coors Melling team gave him a good, strong pit stop. Dale Earnhardt then came into the pits. They took on service 4 tires, and Benny Parsons, who was your leader until he came into the pit. So it's really time to shuffle the deck here. Pearson has been in as well. Bodine will be coming in, and Richmond. It's shuffle the deck time. First really strong set of green flag stops we saw all afternoon.
That's true, Jackie. You know, everyone coming in, you saw Benny Parsons, here's the Harry Gant car, but the leaders that came in, everyone getting a 4-tire change. So you normally don't see a 4-tire stop under the green, but here at Michigan, it takes about 43 to 44 seconds to make a lap under green, so you can change 4 tires in about 30 seconds and get out without losing a lap.
Well, remember, too, it's also a kind of a poker game, as Tim Richmond has inherited the lead here. When the first car coming in, and that was Bill Elliott, elects to go with 4 tires, everyone has to follow suit. It's kind of follow the leader. Richmond is your leader. Gant it should be Bobby Hillin Jr. being shown in the 2nd position, and Darrell Waltrip in 3rd. But remember, those 3 cars have yet to pit as these lead cars, under a green flag condition, come down to make their stops. We are 131 laps into this event. This is a scheduled pit sequence. There's Richmond coming into the pits, and Dick Berggren is there to call the action. Pick it up, Dick.
And here comes Richmond. He's going by Bodine, whose crew has to push him down pit road. Bodine's still stuck apparently in high gear. Richmond's crew is starting with the left side tires. Everybody else is starting with the right side tires. They're looking at the right side tires. This may be only a 2-tire change for Timmy Richmond, whereas the majority of other cars have taken 4. This will be a 2-tire change for Richmond, a little different strategy than some of the other teams.
Aha! So that could be a strategic move by Tim Richmond. He is in and out very quickly. Your new leader should be Bobby Hillin. Number 8, there he is in the Stavola Brothers racing entry. Hillin is taking over the lead here in the Champion Sparkplug 400, but don't go away because there's plenty of racing left here in the Irish Hills of Michigan.
Speed. The triple test of NASCAR racing. Quaker State Motor Oil is here, performing, protecting, flowing continuously under extreme conditions. And it's the same oil you can buy right off the shelf. Quaker State technology delivers protection in your car and on the track.
Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Boy, there's plenty of activity left here this afternoon on ESPN. Of course, the finish here, the Champion Spark Plug 400, but don't go away because second-seeded Boris Becker of West Germany is going to meet Stefan Edberg of Sweden for the title in the Canadian Open final from Toronto, Canada. That'll follow us shortly at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m.
Another guy's pitted. He's getting excellent fuel mileage. He's got the veteran general manager for the team, Ron Perrier, Billy Woodruff, the crew chief on that operation for Mickey and Bill Stavola, and he would like to run well. He credits his grandfather, a fellow they call Blaze Hillen, R.N. Hillen, in Odessa, Texas. He's an oil driller. He's who got young Bobby interested in racing and financed his operation the past 3 or 4 years.
Well, you talk about Billy Woodruff, too. He started right from scratch, sweeping floors for legendary A.J. Foyt, and then finally decided he was going to go Winston Cup racing full-time. Now Hillen is getting out of the throttle, finally, but with plenty of laps under his belt, is going to come down for service with Woodruff and Perrier and make his pit stop to take on fuel, so he'll drop off from the lead, and it will be an ascension back up, and we'll be talking about Bobby Hillen, and it looks like Bill Elliott will take over the lead as the crew goes to work on Hillen's machine. You see they check those inside tires. One guy doing that while they're making the exchange on the right side tires. The NASCAR official holding them up. Let's see if Woodruff and company determine, yes, no, they're going to take only 2 tires as well.
Well, the car has failed to fire. It's shut off, and you saw Ron Perrier spray some igniting fluid into the engine compartment. They refired the car. That cost them a valuable 4 or 5 seconds under green.
A tough break for Bobby Hillen. We were talking about taking on 2 tires by Tim Richmond. It may be a signal of a good move. Dick Bergen is with Harry Hyde. Let's check into that.
Well, Harry, most of the team took on 4 tires. You took on 2. Why?
Well, we haven't had any problem with the right side tires all day. So I put 2 on the left, and the next time we will probably change 4. Some elected to change 4 this time, and there were cars that was having trouble with the right side tires. I haven't had any trouble with the right side, so I figure if I hold my left, next time I'll change 4.
Elliott is running very, very well. Are you running well enough to beat him at the end?
I think so, yeah.
That's Harry Hyde. He's the crew member, crew chief for Tim Richmond, who's won 3 out of the last 4 races.
And there is Tim Richmond and Dale Earnhardt. They are currently positioned in 4th and 5th spots respectively, and they are battling it out. Elliott continues to lead. It is Benny Parsons running 2nd, Joe Ruttman 3rd, Richmond 4th, and in 5th is Dale Earnhardt. Come on back. Disappointment in the face of Joe Ruttman just moments ago, billowing plumes of white smoke from beneath the Quaker State machine. Jerry Punch, it's all over for Joe Ruttman today.
And here is Tim Richmond, Earnhardt, and then Ruttman, the 3rd car, and the smoke boiling from beneath the Buick. The Quaker State efforts for Ruttman, it's all over. And you have to feel, you have to give a call to Joe Ruttman. Kenny Bernstein, the car owner, not here, probably watching this on ESPN. He has to feel this guy has driven his heart out. He wanted to win for that car owner today.
A lot of people said all through Joe Ruttman's career that he didn't have the killer instinct, the ability to close in and make the move for the lead. You can't say that about his run today. He really ran well.
He's a likable driver. He's driven about anything that has wheels and a steering wheel on it. He can drive a race car. He's shown that, and I believe if they could get their engine program together, he could win races here in the Winston Cup competition.
Well, here is the leader. It continues to be Bill Elliott. And that is no surprise. We've talked about the fact that he's on the brink of setting a new NASCAR record here. Now, in short tracks, a lot of drivers have won 4, 5, 6, 7 consecutive victories at Bristol International Raceway, the legendary Junior Johnson cars. But for Elliott here, who leads these guys, 2nd place Tim Richmond and 3rd place Dale Earnhardt, to win 4 consecutive super speedway races at one racetrack, that is quite a feat.
That would be. It's never been done before. It would be a landmark in motorsports. You think about the years that Richard Petty had, David Pearson's years here with the Wood brothers. Pearson having won 9 times here. And it's ironic that we saw Elliott a minute ago going around the veteran Pearson, 51 years old, making only his 2nd Winston Cup start. And Pearson has had probably as much success in his earlier years at this track as Elliott is having now.
Now, the Silver Fox is 1 lap down. He is being posted in 12th position. But let's not count out of the hunt as well this guy, Tim Richmond, at number 25. You heard Harry Hyde talk about the strategy, taking on 2 tires this time, 4 tires next time. He is almost in the same position that he has been in every other race. He doesn't seem to come into his own till later. He shows some promise early on. Then when it's down to the short strokes, that's when Harry Hyde lets loose with the bridle and says, Tim, go for it. He's in third. Earnhardt's in fourth. I don't know. You know, Elliott still may have a problem for this victory.
Well, that's when the cream will rise to the top. Harry Hyde knew what he was talking about, Jack, because they took on 2 tires. Earnhardt took on 4 tires, and yet Richmond is running in front of Dale Earnhardt.
Dr. Dick Bergeron is with a gentleman right now that absolutely has to have a broken heart. Dick?
Joe, it was such a good run until that engine let go.
Well, that's true. The Quaker State car was running real good. And you know, obviously the whole team's a little upset, and so am I, but I was trying to do the best I could. And this might have been the point to turn the team around a little bit, and me too. And it was really a shame that this had to happen.
But you have to feel good that you ran up front so strong for so long.
Well, you know, we fell all year long. We had a plenty fast car, and I think I'm capable of doing it, but just little things have been plaguing us, you know, bolts here and things falling off there, and that really hurt us. And now an engine, we haven't had really a lot of engine problems here recently, but it jumped up and bit us here.
And obviously disappointed Joe Ruttman. They thought they were in for a good finish today.
Boy, what's the old line, Jerry? Close is only good, and horseshoes and hand grenades. Bill Elliott still continues to lead the Champion Spark Plug 400. He has a sizable advantage over Benny Parsons, and in third is Tim Richmond. Earnhardt in fourth.
Introducing Kodacolor VRG film.
We're all moving to a different rhythm. Our hearts are beating to a different drum.
That's what keeps the whole world spinning.
And that's what makes the whole world fun. Don't you know we're all part of the color of life?
The most accurate, realistic color in print film is here. New Kodacolor VRG.
Color of life.
Sure, your performance tires perform in perfect.
Bill Elliott is on the backstretch at Michigan International Speedway, a 2-mile facility. He leads the Champion Spark Plug 400. And we want to talk for a moment about this gentleman, young Alan Kulwicki, trying to capture the 1986 Champion Spark Plug Rookie of the Year title. He's driving the Quincy Steakhouse number 35, and what a story there, Jerry. He is his crew chief, car owner, chief mechanic, and just a likable guy.
Well, he's 31 years old, and he's been running in ASA and ARTCO, you know, and some All-Pro and Bushcraft National Series. He has only the 1 race car. He's entered 12 races this year. This car has been in 10 of them. He ran the same car in 5 races last year. It's the only car he's got. In fact, the car is so tough. He said, this car is so tough, I've nicknamed it Sirloin.
Well, it can't be a Quincy Sirloin, though.
No,
maybe a Bonanza or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Dick Bergeron's got a little bit he'd like to add to the Kulwicki story. Dick?
Yeah, sure do, Jack. He's also only got 2 engines, and they run both those engines in rotation. The engine that's in the car right now, it goes back to the machine shop next week to be worked on. Old one comes back. Most of these teams have 20, 30 engines. Allen's doing it with 2. One other important point. When Phil Elliott emerged as a superstar in this sport, a lot of people said he became a superstar because he worked on his car. Let me tell you what, there is no man in the garage area that works harder on his own race car than Alan Kulwicki. This morning when all the other drivers were walking around looking cool, shaking hands with press and shaking hands with sponsors, Alan Kulwicki was sweating under his race car. Watch this kid, he's got the stuff.
Very good point, Dick. It's something that a lot of people don't realize about Alan Kulwicki is he has a mechanical engineering degree from college, and one of the alignment systems that's still in use today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he worked in the design process in developing that back when he was a mechanical engineer. So this kid has got not only talent as a race car driver, but he's got the ability as a car owner. And who knows, he drives a Ford, maybe he's Bill Elliott of the future.
And he's had a pretty good year, Jack. He has 2 top 10 finishes. He finished 4th at Martinsville, 1 top 5 finish, and he finished 10th at Daytona.
And he's being shown in 18th position, and now going to the inside of him is Terry Labonte, and there is a guy that we understand in about 2 weeks will finally make the announcement of where he is going to go next year. Not a lot of secret about it, but it'll be fine. He'll be glad, and everybody will be happy to put that to rest. Terry Labonte, of course, will not be driving for Piedmont Airlines next year, but the question to you, Jerry, is who will drive for Wayne King and Company in 1987?
You know, I spoke with Wayne King earlier in the week, and he said, you know, everyone is trying to find a driver now. He said, I think by October there'll be more top names available than there are right now. There'll be some people who think they have a deal set, and the deal will fall through, and then I can grab a driver. He would like to, it's no secret, there's a couple of guys he'd like to have, but they already have commitments for next year.
Whoa, your second-place machine, Benny Parsons, has come on to pit road. Could this be a scheduled pit stop? I don't think so. Maybe a tire equalizer.
Probably so. This would not be a scheduled stop. Parsons back in on lap 127, so this would not be a scheduled stop. It's only been about less than 20 laps since he made his last stop.
Now, if the race should go the distance without benefit of a caution flag, Benny Parsons could, and I say could, in quotation marks, go the distance without another stop. We'll have to wait and see, however, as Parsons loses second position. Richmond takes over that spot. Elliott continues to lead, and now Earnhardt is in the third spot.
Fuel-injected Dodge Lancers come with optional turbochargers, and you can't expect that kind of power to stay put.
It's the boys' night out, and they're cruising around. The boys' night out, and they're doing the town. They're revving up, heading out, looking for fun.
5.5 financing or $4,000 to $1,500.
Bill Elliott continues to lead here at Michigan International Speedway, but behind him, it seems if anybody that takes second, third, or fourth position experiences some sort of tire problem. Before we went away, you saw Benny Parsons come in to take on new tires, a problem there. While we were away, Dale Earnhardt was forced onto pit road with a tire problem as well.
He came in and changed 2 tires, an unscheduled stop. He had only been in about 28 laps earlier. Jack, we need to make a point here. We note that Harry Hyde only made a left side tire change on Richmond. We are currently at 158 laps here at Michigan. Now, that means those right side tires on Richmond Chevrolet have currently been on the car 74 laps. That's 148 miles. The Goodyear tires are awfully good, but are they that good?
Well, one thing as we watch Bill Elliott circuit the racetrack that you can always remember is Harry Hyde has been around this sport for so very long. 2 things he likes to do: try radical things, take gambles, and also keep appraised of what the competition is doing and try not to follow suit. Bill Elliott, well, he's a little bit different. He's been able to use the mastery of Michigan to put himself in the front position here once again. Ernie Elliott running so well the ship here with building the engines. Dan Elliott taking some of the crew chief capacities. And as we look at Bill Elliott circuit this racetrack, the hot rumor on pit road for next year for Bill Elliott's team is they may have a crew chief with a different name than Elliott.
That definitely is a rumor, and there's been some people that have been offered possibly a position in an organization, and these people would surprise a lot of listeners, and I think we better leave it in the bag right now.
We'll keep you abreast of that. Who knows? You may find out about it at Bristol or maybe at the Southern 500, which will be here on ESPN. Now, there have been 9 leads actually by 25. Actually, no, wait a minute. Here we get it now. Well, let's take a look at second place here for a moment. That's Tim Richmond. And we want to talk about Richmond for just 1 second. Richmond, again, is posted in the top 3 position. A lot of talk about Rick Hendrick's teams. The Daytona 500. Jeff Bodine was so strong. Gary Nelson was supposed to be the real #1 crew chief. He went with Bodine because of seniority. Harry Hyde comes on board, and everybody said, boy, Hyde and Richmond, they're not going to be able to be compatible personality-wise. Boy, has that been the opposite.
Everyone thought that would be a vinegar and oil type relationship. They would not be able to get along, but that's not been the case. The young Tim Richmond, best Michigan finish here back in '83, finished third. He said he's never had a good run here. We mentioned in the open he finished dead last in this race last year, completed only 3 laps.
Well, Bill Elliott is leading Tim Richmond now by 10.24 seconds. We've talked a lot about tires, and we've talked about the late race pit strategy with just 40 laps to go. Dick Berggren has put it all into understandable terms for us. Dick?
I really wish I had, Jack, but unfortunately the teams themselves are confused right now. I talked to Benny Parsons' team. They say they're doing fine. No problems with tires. It was a routine stop. They're going to go all the way. Earnhardt's team, however, said they're having problems with blisters. The tires they took off, however, were not blistered, but they cannot achieve the right set to go as fast as they wanted. The tires that came off Rusty Wallace's car were blistered. The tires that came off Richard Petty's car were blistered. So here's what's happening. Some teams are going just fine, having no tire trouble whatsoever. Other teams are having tire trouble. And that will probably tell the story of who's going to win this show.
Dick, do you remember the tires that came off all of these race cars about 23 laps into the race? And we maybe ascertained or thought that some teams would elect to save them till the end of the race to go for that last chase to the checkered flag. Any indication that any of the teams are going to do that?
Yeah, sure, no question, Jack. What the teams do on pit road is they save their best tires as the day wears on. In other words, they save the tires that make the car go the best, the tires that are sized the best, the tires that feel the best to them in terms of hardness. And every team on pit road has done that, no doubt about it. Now, Earnhardt is coming to pits again, and no doubt he is going to make a tire change. The thing, though, I remember most, Jack, about that 23-lap pit stop is nobody except Gant had any tire problems. And generally, if there's going to be a blister problem, it's going to happen early, not late in the race. So this is unusual. Now, Earnhardt is in the process of changing right-side tires. This is as much to make the car run fast as for anything else. There goes Earnhardt.
Well, he is off and away, but he's been dropped off the leaderboard. That's costly when you have to make 2 stops in the green like that.
2 stops and 10 laps. They changed 2 left-side tires, now 2 right-side tires.
Well, the story continues to be Bill Elliott out front. Tim Richmond is in second. Darrell Waltrip has moved into third. Harry Gant is fourth. Cale Yarborough resolutely in fifth spot. Stay with us. Bill Elliott continues to lead as he has almost from beyond the halfway mark. We stumbled through how many lead changes and between how many drivers a little while back. Let's give it to you straight. 21 lead changes among 10 drivers, and that really is not indicative of the type of competition we usually see at Michigan International Speedway, Jerry.
It really isn't, Jackie. They're normally, this place is awfully competitive, and they run 8 or 10 or maybe 12 abreast. I mean, 12 in drafts, 3 and 4 abreast, and the competition is usually quite keen here, but Elliott has taken command of this race and is going to put that car up front. I know a lot of these competitors hate to see Bill Elliott, his 4 wins here at Michigan in the last 5 starts. They hate to see him gather momentum because they remember what happened last year. They remember that incredible season he had, and he has been struggling this year with brother Ernie, we mentioned, being ill for the first half of the season, but now they are all back together. The family is in tune. That Ford running up front.
Now, here is a battle for position. This is the battle for third spot. Darrell Waltrip in the Budweiser Chevrolet leads Rusty Wallace. No, actually, Rusty Wallace is a lap down, so Waltrip is out there all by himself in the third spot. Wallace, though, who ran so well early on, is trying to just climb himself back up and show the promise that he has as a race car driver. Now remember, he won so convincingly at Bristol on a short track, but he still feels as if he's got to prove his point when it comes to the super speedways.
I tell you, one of the biggest compliments you can hear about Rusty Wallace is when you're walking in the garage area. We talked about everybody changing drivers and a lot of the car owners. If you go around and talk to 3 or 4 car owners, they'll tell you the one driver that his name will continue to surface that they would like to have is this young man, Rusty Wallace. They would like to put him, he is the star of the future, they say. He will be, they say, possibly the Darrell Waltrip of the future in this Winston Cup stuff.
Despite being 1 lap down, he is presently posted in the 9th position. There's Darrell Waltrip. And you know, Waltrip, with all of his great finishes here at Michigan International Speedway, that graphic is surprising to me that he hasn't won more often. This has really been kind of a Michigan monkey on his back. Performed well, but don't taste victory lane as often as you should.
Well, Darrell led the most laps in both races here last year. He didn't win either one of them, but he led the most laps. So as you said, Darrell Waltrip and another driver, Harry Gant, both run awfully well at this track, but they have yet to get that many wins.
Now, you talk about the march to the Winston Cup Championship. Those of you that are students of history, let me remind you of one very important factor. It seems as if every year, the leader of the Winston Cup points coming into Michigan doesn't win the points championship. Kind of ironic. Darrell Waltrip is not the leader.
Well, Waltrip has trimmed 100 points off the lead that Earnhardt had. Earnhardt had 251-point lead going into the race July 4th at Daytona, only 4 events ago. And Waltrip has trimmed that margin down to 151 points in just 3 races.
Now, we should begin very shortly to see some normal pit stops. In fact, here's the first of the front runners, your 4th place machine. Harry Gant has presented his car in for service from Travis Carter and Company.
Well, they will go to the right right side and changed right side tires down off the jack. Routine pit stop, good stop, under 16 seconds for Harry Gant and the Skoll crew as they move that car down pit road. Also making a pit stop further up pit road, Jackie, is the car number 28, the Hardy Ford with Cale Yarborough.
Now, Cale Yarborough, there's Harry Gant. He pulls back out into the mainstream of activity here in the green flag conditions. Cale Yarborough's crew continues to work. They are done with their service, and Yarborough will be back. He is your fifth place car, so that leaves Waltrip in third, Richmond in second, and Elliott in first. The front five, those are the only cars that haven't pitted yet. Now, there is Bill Elliott coming around out of turn 4. And Dick, as we go through these final stages of pit stops, how about giving us an update as to who can go the distance and who still has to come in?
Well, Jack, a couple of the teams are pretty sure they're going to have to come in. One of them for sure that says they're going to have to come in is Richmond. The other team that's probably going to have to... Oh,
trouble.
That's going to bring them all in for
This
sure.
will be a break for everybody.
Everybody will be in the pits right now.
Two cars have tagged the wall up in turn number 1. You can see one car on the high side resting up against the concrete retaining barrier, and that is Kyle Petty. Boy, the Ford Thunderbird is shortened up considerably, right up to the rear deck lid. The other car that was involved was Jim Hull, the Duraliner car from Roger Hamby's stable. And this is the second crash for Hull this weekend.
Well, he destroyed the car in qualifying, and now this is a backup car in Oldsmobile, and now he's involved in the Ford Thunderbird has been shortened and damaged as Kyle slides it down off these 18-degree bankings in turn 1. He's trying to get the car fired, but you can see how warped the chassis on the car. The right rear tire is up off of the pavement. Only 3 tires touch the ground, and there's a look at Kyle Petty. What a tough day he has for the Wood Brothers car here.
Kind of an up-and-down year for Kyle Petty and the Woods brothers after scoring that great victory at Richmond, Virginia. They've run well throughout the season, but they've also had their problems. Fender bangers like this, but this is a break for Tim Richmond and company. They can come in, take on fuel. Now, it looks to me, Jerry, it would be wise for them to take 4 tires all the way around. Don't you think?
I would expect them to, and there's one crew member laying in the car across the cockpit. He is probably making a chassis adjustment. I would doubt he would be changing ignition, which would be the only other reason he would be in the car. He is making a chassis adjustment as he climbs out of the car, and we'll go to the left side. Harry Hyde's the crew, changing left side tires. They are in a hurry to get him out, even though it's under caution. They want to get him in and out up toward the front.
Now, Bill Elliott is also bringing him onto pit road, and Dick Bergeron is there to cover the action. Dick?
And it's an exciting pit road for sure. Ernie Elliott was just directing traffic with Timmy Richmond to make sure he and his driver, Bill Elliott, didn't collide. This will be at least a 2-tire change for Bill Elliott. They got the right side tires loosened up. They're also unhooking the left rear tire. Butch Stevens with the jack roaring around. Dan Elliott now with his air gun on the left front. 4-tire change appears to be the rule of the order of the day. Fuel as well, Earnhardt in. Just about everybody on pit road now that has a chance to win this thing. And this should make this whole deal a knockdown, drag-out battle. This will be the last pit stop. Dan Elliott with trouble on one lug nut on the left front, and there goes Bill Elliott.
You know, we said early on in this race that this wasn't Madison Square Garden, nor was it the heavyweight championship of the world. But what we're getting down to as we look at Dale Earnhardt completing his activity on the pit road is probably round 15, the final chance for guys like Dale Earnhardt, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, Benny Parsons, any of them to try and unseat Bill Elliott from the lead here in the Champion Spark Plug 400. We'll stay with it and keep you apprised. There you have your current leader, positioned behind the pace car. That's Tim Richmond. He is your leader, and Jerry Punch, that is testimony to Harry Hyde and company.
Tim Richmond went 91 laps on those right side tires, 182 miles, and that car was dialed in so perfectly by Harry Hyde that they were able to go that distance on one set of right side tires.
Now, here is the track ambulance taking Kyle Petty back for the mandatory checkup in the infield hospital. The crew is going to work on Kyle Petty's car. We told you that the rear wheels were airborne up out of the air. They couldn't drive it back to the pits. We'll let you know just what the condition of Kyle is as soon as it becomes available to us. You know, a lot of times we like to ask a question of the week. We like to ask all the drivers what they think about a certain subject. And Dick Bergeron asked a pretty unique one.
Question of the week. If Dale Earnhardt wasn't a professional race car driver, what would you do for a living?
Who knows? You know, you really don't know. I've probably want to be a lawyer or something, make some money. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. There are a few things. I like flying an awful lot. I really enjoy fishing. You know, I could be a fishing guide, or I could just be a storyteller.
I was born and raised on a farm, so I guess I'd been a farmer.
Not a fullback for the Redskins?
Well, not for long, I don't think.
Well, I feel like my father ran a Ford dealership there in Dahlonega. I wouldn't mind pursuing that. We had a building supply business. You know, any kind of business like that, I didn't mind working in. It's a lot of hard work, but still yet, it's all I've ever known is a lot of hard work.
So the rumor about you being a professional golfer is not true?
Absolutely not.
Well, I used to have to work for a living. I used to be a pipe fitter. I worked out of the Pipe Fitters Union in Birmingham, and I hate to think about it, but I'd probably still be hanging off the side of those 20-story buildings putting up pipe. Well, I started probably still be in the house building business. I enjoyed that an awful lot, and I think I'll probably still be in that same business.
Well, it'd be tough to say whatever other career. What I'd like to do right now is I'd like to be a car owner. Then I'd have control of my own destiny.
Well, Dad, don't panic, but I think I'd have been a Pepsi man. I worked for my father at Pepsi-Cola, and I guess he probably heard this and is happy that I'm a race car driver.
I don't know. I like music, and I've got into music, and it's come out of the racing part way, and you know, but there's no telling what I would do. I might be building houses or be a TV commentator like you.
Well, boy, I'm glad that I'm not a driver like him. And look, it took a fine time to leave me, Loose Wheel. One's come unglued from somebody's car. I think it's from car number 52, Jimmy Means. He lost a tire. They're still under caution. Less than 25 laps to go here in the Champion Spark Plug 400. We'll be back with the finish right after this. The complexion of the finish of the Michigan International Speedway Champion Spark Plug 400 has changed dramatically in just the last 4 minutes. Tim Richmond is positioned directly behind the pace car, and he thought that he was indeed the leader of this event. But the report, Jerry Punch, that we have just received from NASCAR is that he pitted too soon. The pace car had not been dispensed out onto the racetrack, and that has cost him literally one entire lap. He is not a lap down, but he is at the tail end of the lead lap. The leader of this event is Bill Elliott.
Well, Bill Elliott is behind both he, Tim Richmond, and Cale Yarborough. We talked about that pit stop when they came in. They dove down pit road as the caution was being displayed. The safety car had not gotten on the track. The leaders were able to come back around and pick up the safety car. They were able to get out, but they are on the tail end of the lead lap. And now Bill Elliott, who's just a couple of cars behind them, will have a chance at running them down and putting them a lap down. So this should be some shootout to try to keep that lap from getting around them.
Now, Richmond is being posted in 5th position. There is your leader as NASCAR gives it to us. That is Bill Elliott. Another car that is in front of Bill Elliott is the 28 car of Cale Yarborough. However, he pitted under green flag conditions just 2 laps before the caution came out. That has proved costly to him as well. He is being posted in the 6th spot. We are 177 laps into this event. The field directly behind the pace car, still working under caution. A tough break for Richmond, and there you can see where they are working extensively on the track, trying to clean up the debris and the liquids that have been dispensed and laid down after that crash by Kyle Petty.
And Kyle was taken to the infield care center. The safety crew is on the scene immediately, and Kyle being taken from the car. He hit pretty hard, but apparently that's routine. They'll take him in for a checkup and see if he's going to be okay. But the car he's driving, the 711 Ford, will not be okay. It will be taken back to the Woods Brothers stable, heavily damaged from that impact out in turn 1.
Let's see if we can get a reaction from Cale Yarborough as to the problem, even though he's at the tail of the lead lap. Cale, it looks like it was a tough break. First the green flag stop, and then this untimely caution. You're in that position. You were in 5th position before it, but now you're at the tail end of the lead lap in 6th spot.
Yeah, that's a tough break, Jackie, but I had started running out of gas at the end of the straightaway, and I knew that if we pushed it any further, that we was probably going to run completely out. I had some tire that was busted too, so we went on and stopped, but we should have made one more lap.
You said early on that you just didn't have the horsepower to do battle for the lead, but you've really wrestled that car all afternoon to keep it posted on the board.
Well, the car is handling pretty good, but as I say, I'm just, not strong enough down the straightaways really to make a challenge on anybody, so we just have to suffer it out.
We know you real well, and you've always said winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing. Is it tough for you to run out there knowing that maybe the best you're going to be able to pull down is 5th or 4th or maybe 3rd, not a checkered flag?
I haven't given up on that checkered flag yet. Anything could happen.
Well, that's the story from Cale Yarborough, and boy, that tells you a lot. He looks like a bulldog, and boy, he goes at racing just like a bulldog. Take a bite and don't let go.
Cale Yarborough is not a quitter. He wants to win, and that's how he won a race at Charlotte Motor Speedway last year, back in October. His last win back there came because he got a lap or so down, and he and Waddell Wilson and all the Hardee's crew pulled together, and he made up that lap and came home to take the win.
Now, Tim Richmond's crew has been informed. There you see him being informed about the situation. Let's see if we can eavesdrop a little bit on Harry Hyde and his argument with the NASCAR officials. Nick Bergeron is there. He's checking in on the condition. There is one unhappy man, Jerry. That's one thing. You'll never see him lose his cool, but he will let you know what he thinks.
Well, Harry Hyde is a gentleman, but he's a competitor. He wants to win. And after gambling on those right side tires to give his driver a chance at victory, you'd hate for it to all to come up or go away for a simple mental mistake like that, coming in and not getting and being caught there in the pits with the caution car still inside.
Talking about Harry Hyde and the great win that they had last week, it was kind of ironic because on August 4th, a car owner that Harry Hyde had so many victories underneath his belt with the late Bobby Isaac and then with Buddy Baker when they drove the Chrysler-powered cars, those Dodges, and it was a guy by the name of Nord Kroskoff who was the head of K&K Insurance. And those of us that have been in the sport for so very long can remember those brilliant red number 71s. And what great memories we had. And Nord Kroskoff, who died on August 4th, was a household fixture in racing. And all of us pass on our condolences, albeit a little bit late, to his family. He was a great member of the racing fraternity, and he certainly will be missed. There's Richard Petty, who's had a good run here today, despite some blistering problems that put him several laps back. But we had a chance to talk to Richard Petty about the physical ailments, all the crashes that he's had this year. He's really had a tough time with racing.
It has been a rough year for the king of stock car racing, Richard. You've had a number of injuries, yet you managed to come back. I think a dislocated shoulder and the concussion. Tell us about, first of all, your injury pattern this year and how you come through it.
Well, really, we've been lucky. You know, we dislocated the shoulder at Daytona, and, you know, the next week we was racing at Richmond, and then we went to Rockingham, and the week after that. So, you know, they just taped it up, and away we went. Didn't feel too good for the first couple of races, but we got by with it. And then at Charlotte, had a tire problem. Tire went down practicing and knocked my head around a little bit, but I guess that's probably the least of my energy when I get my head. I'm probably recoup from that quicker than anything. But, you know, it's just not been a good year. We've tore up, you know, 3 or 4 race cars, and we just not, things just hadn't fell together yet, but they're going to start one of these days.
How about being back home with Dale Inman, a fellow you won over 180 races with? That's got to be a good feeling to get Kenny Wilson and all the guys back together.
Well, it makes me feel good. Even though we're not doing good, we know we've got the nucleus of a super team that can win races because they've won races before. And it's just a deal of everybody doing their work and waiting for circumstances to get on our side. And, you know, no matter how hard we work or how good we are or how good we think we are, until we get a little bit of luck to go along with it, then we're not going to do anything. But if we work at it long enough, you know, luck will come our way.
Sometimes I'm sure Richard Petty figures that he's been in a gang fight and his gang didn't show up. And Jerry talked about being taped up at Richmond and going on and racing. Who was it that did the tape job?
Well, I'll have to take the blame there. I had to be a doctor for a little while before the race, and he and Dale Inman and I sort of bandaged him up, and we used about 3 or 4 rolls of tape to bandage that right shoulder. He could really hardly lift his right arm, yet we were able to pull the seat up in the car where he could change gears, and he drove 400 laps on a half-mile racetrack. Don't tell me that guy is going to retire pretty soon, because he still has a competitive spirit.
When they talk about true grit, they would have to put next to the definition in Webster's dictionary a picture of Richard Petty, because he indeed has had it for a number of years, and has made that number 43 blue, number 43 in the words STP, household words. Today he's 3 laps down, and we're under caution because his son, Kyle Petty, crashed in turn number 2. Actually, between turns 1 and 2. Petty goes through that area now, and he's got to have a little bit of mixed emotions about that.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure the crew, Dale Inman, is awfully close to Kyle Petty, his son, and Dale probably has dispatched one of the STP crew members over to the infield care center to make sure that Kyle is okay, so they can come back and tell Richard, while they're still under caution, that your son is all right.
Well, there's Kyle Petty's car. It's the Walking Wounded from the Champion Spark Plug 400. But don't go away. We're going to have a lot of green flag racing yet. Elliott leads. Still working under caution here at Michigan International Speedway. There's 182 laps completed of the 200 that are scheduled here this afternoon. And Bill Elliott is taking to Michigan Speedway almost as badly as Grant took Richmond.
I'll tell you, Bill Elliott leading, but the fellow who is right now hoping to be able to have a victory is Benny Parsons. We mentioned the last time Benny sat on the pole here back in '80. He got the win here. And Benny Parsons and Bill Elliott are good friends. They've liked each other for a long time. And when Bill Elliott was just starting out, Benny was in his prime, and it still is in this sport, and he helped the young red-headed Georgia driver get along. In fact, Elliott, Harry Melling, and Benny Parsons are all three good friends.
Well, remember, too, that Bill Elliott actually got his sponsorship from Harry Melling after it was directed that way by a salesman for Harry Melling by the name of Benny Parsons.
Exactly.
Boy, would love nothing better than to see Benny Parsons capture this event today, because he would be great to listen to all next weekend when we come to the high banks, actually the highest banks in all of NASCAR at Bristol International Raceway for the running of the Busch 500. You'll get to see all of the action right here on ESPN Saturday night under the lights starting at 7:30 p.m. All of NASCAR's leading drivers go back to the short tracks. And boy, what a place to have to get it done. Bristol International Raceway. Look for Darrell Waltrip, Tim Richmond, Jeff Bodine, and Benny Parsons in the booth going after it. There in the foothills of Tennessee in probably one of the greatest races you'll see on a short track. Bristol is just an incredible place.
Well, they get it on in Bristol. They fram and bam, and I mean the carnage of sheet metal you see from Bristol. Some cars you just have to take and just throw away when you leave Bristol.
It's a body man's delight. He gets to work overtime after they come home from Bristol. And what's going to be great about the Bristol festivities this year is there's a statewide activity going on called Homecoming 86 in Tennessee. And one of the things that they're going to do at Bristol International Raceway is use that as Bristol's gift to Homecoming 86. So we'll let you know more about that next week. Now, let's take a look at the current money as we look at Ernie Elliott, Dan Elliott. They don't seem too concerned about things, but let's see how the money is being broken down this year. $871,000 plus for Dale Earnhardt. Look at Darrell Waltrip, not too bad there in third spot at $600,000. Not too bad for Ricky Rudd back there at $378,000 plus.
Pretty good year. Earnhardt, of course, has already won $150,000 because he was leading at the halfway point in the points. He has a chance to pick up the lion's share of $1.5 million up for winning the point championship.
Well, let's check in with Dick Bergeron as we're getting ready to go back to green. I think he's with Benny Parsons, crew chief.
I sure am, and with Leo Jackson. Leo, as we get ready for a green flag, what are you guys going to do from here to beat that number 9 car?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if Benny's got anything left or if he runs as hard as he can, but we're just going to chase him as hard as we can.
Are you strong enough to go all the way now and perhaps win this thing?
Well, we were very strong in qualifying, and we're racing the same motor we qualified, so I'd say if we've got the right tire combination, that is in stagger,
we're about to find out. We're getting ready for a green flag right now.
Now, Benny has not won a Winston Cup Grand National Winston Cup race this year, but he did win the Atlanta Invitational. Remember, you saw that on ESPN. He's got his work cut out for them, though, as we're ready to go back to green flag racing. The guy out front in the Champion Spark Plug 400 has owned this racetrack for the last 7 outings here. That's Bill Elliott. There's Benny Parsons with some heavy race traffic in front of him. Actually, Dale Earnhardt is directly in front of Benny Parsons before he can take a shot or take aim even on number 9, Bill Elliott. The field comes up. It's a dash to the finish. Look at them spread out like bumblebees as they come across the stripe. All of the drivers jockeying for positions.
A 15-lap sprint race, Jack, as they head now. Countdown, 15 laps to we're finished here. The checkers will come out. Benny Parsons caught back in traffic. Earnhardt, who's lapped down, as you mentioned, is in between.
Whoa, Benny Parsons is up in the wall. He's got a problem. He's walloped it hard. A tough break for Benny on the restart. Boy, that's a tough break, and that will bring out a caution on lap 185. And let's see who runs back to the stripe, because he's going to gain his position back. If Tim Richmond can stay out front, he'll be able to come back to the tail end of the lap. Will he stay in front of Bill Elliott? He does. Boy, Grandpa, put your teeth in your britches, because the finish of this one's going to be a wild one. Richmond goes all the way around now, and he'll gain all that disadvantage back, and it'll become an advantage. Let's take a look at the replay of the crash by Benny Parsons.
Okay, Benny Parsons behind the car of Rusty Wallace. The engine came unglued in Parsons' Oldsmobile. The Copenhagen car shears around, spins, tags the outside retaining wall. sheet metal flying from the car, traffic clearing beneath it, and what a heartbreak for Benny Parsons.
Jerry, does that sometimes happen when you're just coming back up through the gearbox? Maybe you miss a gear, or maybe you over-rev it just a little bit, and that strain on the engine after it's been down in the low RPM, finally the rings or the bearings just say no mas, and just puke it all out the sides?
Well, that can happen, but Benny is very conservative with his car. He takes care of his equipment. There are some guys out here who will jam the car through gears, but Benny does not do that. I'm sure he was trying to milk the car very slowly up through the gearbox to come back to full song, but it just let go. For whatever reason, the engine is gone, and our colleague is set up in turn 2.
Well, that is a tough break for Benny Parsons. The crew is now running to his assistance, the track support personnel, which is excellent here at Michigan International Speedway. They are on the scene. You can see the debris. Benny Parsons just solidly in the middle groove of the exit of turn number 2. Boy, what a tough break. But as you said in your opening, one man's meat is another man's poison. For Benny Parsons, this isn't good. But boy, for Tim Richmond, it's got to taste like a good piece of filet mignon right now.
Well, Tim Richmond's certainly getting a break, and we'll take a peek and see as Richmond tries to make up that lap in Benny Parsons' mangled car. They're excited. They know that they are back in the hunt. Harry Hyde standing there on pit road talking to Tim Richmond, the left hand on that radio button, telling Tim, okay, take it easy, be gentle, get the car back around in one piece, maybe bring it in and service the car under caution.
Don't be surprised if you see Tim Richmond called onto pit road to take on fuel and tires. But we'll let you know if it happens while we're away. But right now, we're going to go away for a bit. But we'll be back for the green flag action. Tough break for Benny Parsons. It's over for him, but not for Elliott. We never get a chance to show you because we don't have a doctor on staff. It's just what it's like when a driver goes from the accident to the infield hospital. Here's Jerry Punch.
When an accident occurs on the Speedway here at Michigan International Speedway, an advanced life support paramedic unit is dispatched to the scene. There, they make an assessment of the patient. That assessment is relayed by med radio to Dr. Ballman here in the Infield Care Center prior to transport. Dr. Ballman gives appropriate instructions, and they are en route to this facility. When the ambulance arrives at the Infield Care Center, the driver is expeditiously moved inside where the trauma team is set to go to work. Dr. Greg Ballman will assess the orientation status of the patient. Is he awake and alert? Vital signs will be taken. The ABCs of emergency medicine will be observed. A is airway, B is breathing, and C is circulation. A nurse will take the patient's blood pressure. A cardiac monitor will be applied to the patient to monitor heart rate. The trauma assessment takes place over a period of 5 to 7 minutes. Irrespective of the extent of the injury of the driver, the assessment is the same. You follow the ABCs to make sure that no stone is left unturned. Following the initial trauma assessment, if further evaluation is needed, the driver can be transported by ground ambulance to Foot Memorial Hospital in nearby Jackson, Michigan. The time by ambulance, roughly 20 minutes. Here the driver being loaded into an advanced life support unit, where he'll make the 20-minute run to Foot Memorial Hospital in nearby Jackson. If more extensive injuries are diagnosed, a Bell Jet Ranger helicopter, an air medevac unit is available here at Michigan International Speedway to transport the serious injuries to the St. Vincent's Regional Trauma Center in Toledo, Ohio. That flight, roughly 25 minutes. We'd like to express our gratitude to the Coors Melling team, Alexis Liris and Bill Elliott, for the use of that driving suit and the helmet to help us make that simulation more real for that hospital.
Well, Benny Parsons has walked away. Thankfully, we haven't had anything serious going down to the infield hospital, but they're always here ready to stand by. Now, standing by with Dick Bergeron is a guy that many people say is the new Roger Penske of the South. Dick?
Some people say he's the Roger Penske of all auto racing, perhaps, at some time. Rick Hendrick, owner of car 25, Tim Richmond's car. What is your assessment of the penalty that NASCAR has handed out?
Well, I'd rather not say anything on the air, but we're not happy about it a bit. It's a reversal of what they did to us in Atlanta. And we're gonna find out. We're gonna go see Mr. Gazaway and let him explain it to us, because we don't understand it as of right now.
Will you file an official protest?
We're going down to Daytona. Yeah.
That's Rick Hendrick, obviously not very happy about what's happened to his team this afternoon.
And watch how quick they cancel their flight to Daytona if they move from 4th position to 1st position in the final 10 laps. That's all we've got left here. That's all that Tim Richmond, this man, has got left to beat Bill Elliott to the checkered flag for the champion Spark Plug 400. Elliott leads, Waltrip is second. Running in third is the teammate to this car. That would be Jeff Bodine. Bodine has moved into third spot, and Tim Richmond is in the fourth position. Let's take a look at the current point system, the point standings here for 1987 on the Winston Cup Tour. Dale Earnhardt leads, but not by much, Jerry Punch, over Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip has started that late season charge. There's Richmond, who also says, I've got a shot at the points with 25.80. Bobby Allison solidly in that fourth position, and Ricky Rudd. Now let's look at 6th through 10th as well, because they're important. There's Elliott, Wallace, Kyle Petty with a good run, being posted in 7th in the point standings, Jeff Bodine, and boy, it's good to see Bobby Hillen Jr. up there in 10th position.
Well, Bobby Hillen was in 8th position after his win at Talladega, but a couple of poor finishes and problems at Watkins Glen moved him back into 10th, but he had a better standing in the points earlier in the year.
Now, as we said early on, we've got a situation where the guy that has led the point standings coming into Michigan has not been the driver that has won the Winston Cup Championship. And with Waltrip sitting in that catbird position in second, he's been there so many years before. Who knows? Maybe this is a good omen for Darrell.
You know, all 3 times Darrell's won the championship. Back in '81, he was behind Allison by 340 points. At the midway point of the season, he won by 53 points. In '82, Waltrip trailed Allison by 147 points with just 7 races to go, and he won the championship. And last year, he was 251 points behind Bill Elliott with only 8 races remaining, and he came on with such a charge that he won the championship by over 100 points.
Now, one group of people that don't seem at all concerned about the way their car is running. There's Darrell Waltrip, you can see. But let's take a look at a pit crew. Now, you want to see tension? That's your lead team. Hard to believe. Ernie Elliott sitting down there. Dan Elliott with one leg just thrown casually up against pit wall. They don't seem at all concerned about the charge possibly from Waltrip, Bodine, and Richmond, do they?
They're tense, aren't they? They really look like they're really keyed up there in the pits.
And who knows? On Monday afternoon, they may teach a course in stress management.
They could teach me, I tell you.
But there is maybe the reason why. The poise that's positioned behind the wheel of that Coors Bellingford Thunderbird. Their brother, Bill Elliott, really could write the book about how to get the job done inside a race car.
You know, we talked to Bill Elliott during the week about other careers, and he talked about he likes to fly. He said flying his airplane relaxes him. You know, he has tremendous composure. I have to believe if he weren't a race car driver, he'd be a fighter pilot, because he does not get rattled very easily.
Well, let's remind you, too, that we'll stay here right to the finish, but don't forget that coming up next, right here from Toronto, Canada, live, it's Becker versus Edberg in the Canadian Open Final for tennis. That's going to be a great match. That Boris Becker boy, after he won at Wimbledon a couple of years ago, he's become a household word in tennis, and he is very strong. And to go after Edberg this afternoon, that ought to be one whale of a match.
It should be a heck of a match. I want to scramble down and get a watch that on ESPN, that Becker-Edberg. That should be something to see.
Now, that'll follow us here at the Champion Spark Plug 400, and immediately following the tennis match, we'll be off to Pocono International Raceway. You've seen little bits and pieces of it sandwiched in this one. Well, you'll get to see it in its entirety. The Domino's Pizza 500. Bob Jenkins and company covering the action there. Let's go down to Dick Berggren with a very laid-back and relaxed Ernie Elliott.
Well, Ernie, you look really relaxed. Is it going to be that easy for the next 8 or 9 laps?
No, it's not easy. I just don't feel very good, so I've been taking it a little easy.
How is the car going? Are there any problems at all, or do you think you guys have this thing?
It ain't over till the checkered flag falls, so I'm going to wait and see. We've been running good, but there's a lot of other good cars, too. Darrell's running good. Richmond's for sure running good. Bodine's running good. It's anybody's race. We'll wait, let's hope.
It's not over yet, says the crew chief of the car that's in the lead.
And as Yogi Berra would say, it ain't over till it's over, and everybody behind Bill Elliott realizes that. Look at how they close up behind him. We're getting ready to go back for 7 laps of racing. We are working lap 193. When they come down to take the green flag, it will be 194. There'll be 6 circuits left. 12 miles to get the job done. Can they do it? Can they beat Bill Elliott?
I tell you, that one lone Ford out there looks awfully lonely with 3 Chevrolets chomping at the rear deck of that car number 9, the Coors Melling Ford. 3 Chevrolets, Waltrip, Bodine, and Tim Richmond after Elliott. It should be a trophy day.
All right, now let's give you who are on the lead lap. 4 cars. Bill Elliott is on the lead lap, followed by Darrell Waltrip, then Jeff Bodine, and then Tim Richmond. Those are the cars to pay attention to. 1 lap back is Earnhardt, Wallace finishes in 6th, 1 lap back. 7th goes to Bill Parsons, a good call to him. 8th spot, 2. That would be Cale Yarbrough and David Pearson in 9th and Harry Gant in 10th. But it's a 4-car shootout for 6 laps to go here in the Iris Hills of Michigan. It's Bill Elliott. Can he become a record breaker in the NASCAR books by scoring his 4th consecutive victory at one super speedway? The green has come out. They come up through the gearbox, screaming the engines of these automobiles, trying to close down, and fading quickly in the back of the screen is Jeff Bodine. He looks like he'll be out of the hunt. Darrell Waltrip trying to get around Dale Earnhardt, as is Tim Richmond. They're trying to close in on Bill Elliott, but to no avail. Elliott is out front on the point as they come out of turn 2.
Remember, Bodine only has high gear. He got left high and dry on the restart. He will have to find his way back through that gaggle of cars as now Earnhardt follows Bill Elliott. Then Waltrip, the second-place car, is sandwiched behind Earnhardt.
Elliott utilizing that Talladega Daytona snake, trying to shake the draft, but he knows fair well that he's got Earnhardt sandwiched between himself and the second-place machine of Darrell Waltrip. So the battle is for second. Here comes Richmond downstairs, going after Waltrip. Waltrip closes the door, says you're going to have to do it down into turn number 2. It's Richmond looking in turn 1, trying to get around Waltrip for second position.
The man on the moment is Tim Richmond as he tries to make a move beneath Earnhardt. Richmond's car handling on the bottom of the racetrack. Here are 2 Chevrolet drivers. Richmond, the hottest thing. 4 wins in the last 5 starts as Richmond trying to now makes a move on the inside of Waltrip.
There are less than 5 laps to go. Tim Richmond set his sights on second position. He goes up alongside of Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip battles back in turn 3. They rumble to turn 4. It's Elliott out front. Runs in second. In third spot is Tim Richmond. They come to the stripe. There will be 4 laps to go.
Meanwhile, Bill Elliott, we see the difference. Bill Elliott, there it is, about 8 or 9 car lengths between Elliott and the lap car of Earnhardt. Then 4 car lengths back to the third-place battle between Waltrip and Tim Richmond.
Now, this duke out for second position has been costly for second and third spot. They are letting Bill Elliott get away from themselves. It may come down to Elliott winning this thing, and the contest may be simply for second position. There's Richmond trying to gun down your second-place runner, Darrell Waltrip. He looks down to the inside as they come out of turn 3 and head to turn 4. We're coming up for just 3 laps to go.
There is Elliott in the field flashing by. Elliott will be the bride, but who will be the bridesmaid as Waltrip now being tried on the outside by Richmond. He'll try it the hard way. Richmond trying to catch the draft of Earnhardt. They slide back in single file.
1.2 seconds separate Bill Elliott from Darrell Waltrip, but Waltrip's got his hands full in turn 2. Knocking, rapping at the door is Tim Richmond. Richmond wants that second position. Earnhardt moves over to give Waltrip a running shot with just a couple of laps remaining at Bill Elliott, but it may be too late. But it's also holding off the advances of Tim Richmond.
Tim Richmond back there watching now, letting Waltrip get by Earnhardt. Richmond's car works better on the bottom of the racetrack as Richard Petty pulls the STP Pontiac in and coasts to a halt on pit road. But the battle on the racetrack, Jackie, is for second spot.
Now, there are just 2 laps to go. 4 miles remaining. Elliott comfortably in front. Not so for Waltrip. He's got his hands full with Tim Richmond in the battle for second position. But Waltrip holds him up. Now going downstairs is Tim Richmond coming out of turn number 2. Richmond builds up the revs. He's got Waltrip. He takes over second spot.
Richmond pulls the trigger. He made that move in front of Earnhardt to the inside, got the momentum out of turn 2, and now pulls Waltrip by 2 car lengths.
Tim Richmond cocked the hammer and shot the cannon and moved the Folgers number 25 into second position. There is Bill Elliott. The interval between first and second. There's Richmond. The white flag has been displayed to the field. Elliott is out front. Richmond still has to hold off Darrell Waltrip. It's Elliott smoothly out front. Richmond looks in his rearview mirror and sees Darrell Waltrip. Waltrip looks to the inside. It isn't over yet for second spot.
Final time. Richmond will try to hold off the 3-time Winston Cup national champion as Waltrip now has Earnhardt glued to his rear deck. Will he use the draft? Richmond moves down and tries to break the draft. It's still 2 car lengths between Richmond and Waltrip.
Tim Richmond threw some dirty air back there to Darrell Waltrip, trying to gain the advantage. It seemed to work. Waltrip's got a problem. He's out of the throttle. He will finish third. Meanwhile, Elliott is hurtling towards the start-finish line. He will win the Champion Sparkplug 400 for an unprecedented 4th victory consecutively here at Michigan International Speedway. Finishing in second will be Tim Richmond. He comes across the stripe. Third spot will go to Darrell Waltrip. Fourth to Jeff Bodine. And Dale Earnhardt, one lap off the pace, will take down the 5th position. Boy, unbelievable.
What a finish, Jackie, and a popular victory. The people are standing and cheering 100,000 plus here at Michigan International Speedway. Wave as Bill Elliott puts that left hand out the window of that Coors Ford and waves to Tim Richmond as the cars go by. Waltrip signals and congratulates Bill Elliott on his win.
So, Bill Elliott has set a new standard in the NASCAR record books. 4 consecutive times. He has tasted the champagne of victory lane here at Michigan International Speedway. He is now 5 for 7 here at MIS. Boy, when it comes to Michigan, it should be called Elliott International Speedway. He's been victorious this afternoon. What a great run, though, by Tim Richmond to take over 2nd position. So, that's the way it finished. We'll give you the top 5 and talk to the winner after these messages. So, don't go away. We'll be talking to Bill Elliott in victory lane.
Let me have your attention, guys. It's time for today.
It's over. And Bill Elliott has won. Tim Richmond is 2nd. Darrell Waltrip comes home 3rd. Jeff Bodine is 4th. And 5th goes to Dale Earnhardt. Today's winner interview is going to be brought to you by Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And for victory lane, let's go down to our colleague, Dr. Dick Bergeron, who's with the winner of the Champion Sparkplug 400, Bill Elliott. Dick?
And Bill, congratulations on another Michigan win.
I'll tell you what, the car ran perfect all day long. I couldn't ask for no better.
A lot of people were having trouble with suspensions, tires, and other such things. You didn't have any problems at all?
You know, I was so happy with this thing yesterday afternoon, I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe the way the car ran all day long.
At the end of the race, it looked like it might turn into a dogfight between you, Waltrip, and a few other people. Were you watching in the mirror while they raced and you took off?
Yeah, I did. I think, you know, got them to race, and plus I saved my best set of tires for the end.
Good day for you.
No doubt about it. The Coors, Mellon, Thunderbird kept right on going.
What is it about Michigan that puts you in this victory lane a record number of times, Bill?
I have no idea, but it's right.
One happy Bill Elliott down here in victory lane with his wife, Martha, getting a big kiss. Very well deserved. A good run for Bill Elliott this afternoon at Michigan.
Boy, that is an understatement. Bill Elliott has won his 4th consecutive race here at Michigan International Speedway. We'll be back to give you the final order of finish after these messages. Let's try to go get Richmond.
To win the 1986 Daytona 500, Jeff Bodine relied on the same Exxon motor oil you can buy in stores.
Well, there you can see Bill Elliott enjoying all of the accolades that victory lane comes here at the Champion Sparkplug 400 that's due a driver when he wins. Kind of a poised group, but they have certainly done their homework as it applies to Michigan. Done quite well today, but I was personally impressed with the run by Tim Richmond, finishing in 2nd. There's Elliott, the winner, Richmond 2nd, Darrell Waltrip 3rd, Bodine comes home 4th, Dale Earnhardt in 5th position. 6th spot goes to Rusty Wallace, a good run by him. Cale Yarborough in his final appearance with Waddell Wilson at the controls finishes in 7th position. 8th to Phil Parsons, a good run. 9th spot to Harry Gant. And David Pearson, in only his 2nd start of the season, finishes in 10th position. Now, I'd like to remind you, don't go away, because coming up next are the finals for the Canadian National Open from Toronto, Canada. And that'll be Boris Becker and Stefan Edinburgh of Sweden. Becker from West Germany. They'll be facing off immediately following us. And then be sure to join us for the Cart Domino's Pizza 500 at 5:30 p.m. this afternoon Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Today's Champion Sparkplug 400 has been brought to you by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution. By Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. By Levi Garrett Chewing Tobacco. Time after time, the quality comes through. So, Bill Elliott has captured his 4th consecutive race here at Michigan International Speedway. A great run, a fine afternoon for the entire Winston Cup time.
But it's also spread its wings and landed elsewhere. And in Japan, it has found a warm and